with these noise complaints. So sorry to be so verbose, but hopefully that gives you some flavor for the enforcement.
Yeah, in the ordinance, though, it actually stipulates a warning must be given and compliance can come in. It's
Correct.
actually not
Correct.
even a discretion, it's part of the ordinance, and if they come into compliance and it sort of has a time limit.
Sorry to be so verbose, but hopefully that gives you some flavor. My words are coming back to haunt me.
Feedback coming through. So the warning's built in a way, right? If people come into compliance with this, there's no harm, no foul, is the way I read the warrant, because there's a warning section in there. Okay, just want to make sure. On lines 381, 382, the term entertainment activities is used, and I didn't see that in the definitions. And that's something that should be looked at from all the interested parties' viewpoints. Is that defined in lines 419 to 423 seem to cover that? I'm just trying to, again, think about things that could come into, I don't agree with that. We want to reduce that in our discussion and our process if this goes forward so people can say, like it or not, we both agree, or whoever it is, they agree on sort of the gist of it. What do you think, Paul? Clear enough?
I'm trying to find where you.
381 to 382 uses the term entertainment activities.
381 to 82.
Very last sentence.
Oh yeah, there it is.
And it wasn't the definition, so as I was reading the whole thing, 419 to 423, if you flip to that, I think that covers it. Is that what was intended?
Probably.
Okay.
And I say probably because, yes, I wrote the ordinance, but actually the county wrote the ordinance, so.
Well, you put it in, so we have to pay attention to it, right?
Yeah, it's correct.
If it applies here, we have to pay attention. On page 3 of your memo, you talk about a direct line of sight and hearing to the real property that is the source of the noise. So one of the things I was trying to figure out is where does the officer stand appropriately? If you know the boundary of and I did sort of 3 pictures. If someone came to my house, does the officer stand in the right of way, sort of in front of the house, if it was called on me? Or do they go 300 feet away? And do they go from the edge of my yard? Because going to the edge of my yard towards A1A would change their reading because you get ocean sound and car sounds. It might actually be less deemed a violation. But if you go the other way, go down the quieter street. So where does the officer choose to stand? No matter where we call this, where do they go?
Well, I think if it were, and I don't mean to be instructive of how to handle these things, but if I were on my balcony and I heard a bunch of music at, say, 11 o'clock at night, somebody had a band and I heard a bunch of music coming at 11 o'clock at night, and I called the town to file a code enforcement complaint. You know, if it were me, I'd want the officer to come to where I'm hearing it, to look at it from there.
But that's not, as I was reading it, that's not what it says.
But as a practical matter, that's, you know, it's 300 feet, you know, line of sight, straight line. That's the measurement. So if the balcony is more than 300 feet.
So if it's, but let's talk about if it's less than, right? So it's less than, where should the officer go, meeting the ordinance,
Well, if it's
to
less
get a
than
good reading of the 12?
Well, if it's less than, it's not a violation. If
Well-
it's less than 300 feet during the day, or at night, if it's less than 150 feet, it's not a violation.
Okay, so so help me out here. So if 300 feet in the evening, right, or in the day, I mean, the officer, someone says on the balcony, if they're closer then, where would the officer go to do the 12 points?
Well, I think the officer, if somebody is filing a complaint, they're probably going to go
To the complaint and location.
to the complainant location.
Okay, that helps. Okay, I'm just, again, trying to understand it.
And again, they're going to have to make a determination, depending upon what time of day it is, whether they're 300 feet or 150 feet away. I mean, if they are 100 feet away and it's daytime or nighttime, it's, even if it's plainly audible, under this ordinance,
Okay.
it wouldn't appear to be a violation. Now, does that stop the officer? Again, we're back to the scenario where the officer responds to a domestic dispute. Does that stop the officer from taking any further action? I don't think it does necessarily. I think the officer can always go to the source of the sound and say, you know, look, we're getting complaints. May not be a violation, but, you know, can you tone it down? You know?
In some of the 12 points, one of them was an officer is to determine the density of inhabitation. I'm thinking to myself, how does an officer know that type of stuff? And what matters for the duration? I know, you know, noise could be short and loud and intermittent if someone's yelling. So I'm not trying to make it so engineered, but I was just trying to understand practically from a police officer, how do they satisfy that line? Because it says they got to document it.
It may, and I'll tell you, that's, you know, like the duration of the noise. That may be a factor that goes toward the concept of prosecutorial discretion. In other words, if you know, if I yell, I've obviously violated the ordinance.
I'm awake.
But if that's all that I've done, you know, are you going to take me to the code enforcement board?
Right, you're in compliance after you've made your noise.
Yeah, but I mean,
and
as a
you're done.
practical matter.
Yeah,
As
okay.
a practical matter.
Okay.
And, you know, and I give you that as an example. Now, if it's, again, let's take somebody that has a band that's playing at 11 o'clock at night, and, you know, they don't play just 2 or 3 notes, you know. If they play 2 or 3 songs, you're lucky. You know, it may go on 10 songs, and it's like, when does this end?
Yeah, so this relies a lot on prosecutorial discretion, is what I'm hearing. And that makes sense, as judgment calls are made, whether you're speeding or did you run the stop sign. Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned collateral estoppel,
Yes.
and I don't want to dive deep in it because it seems maybe, I just wanted to understand, if the county updated their ordinance to change the distance or any other thing for sound detection, and our goal is to be consistent, do you show up at the council and say they changed the distance? And it may have been working for us, but because the county now changed it, we change it?
If the county changed their ordinance, and we became aware of that, you know, that may be an issue that we may want to face. We may want to consider changing our ordinance to mirror the change that the county has made. And of course, one of the obvious questions you're going to have is, well, what's the change? But the bigger question that you're going to have is, once you learn what the change is, you're going to ask the question, why? Why did the county do it? And you're going to be looking for some, you know, for some rational reason. Now, if you have 5 county commissioners that are extremely hard of hearing and like loud noises, and they, you know, they want to change the ordinance to make it even harder to enforce or easier to enforce, you know, you may say, you know, those guys up at the county, they need to get a hearing aid. We're not going to adopt that change. But on the other hand, you know, if they propose some change that makes sense, you may want to change it. Also, the chances, if somebody's going to sue on this ordinance, the chances are greater that the county is going to get sued. Reason for that is it's countywide. There's many hundreds, maybe thousands of more opportunities for a lawsuit to arise. If a court decision comes out and the court finds a problem with the ordinance or something of that sort, the county wants to change the ordinance to correct that problem. They see that's a determination of the court, needs to be corrected. Well, you know, we would probably want to follow up and make that same change to help to bulletproof our ordinance.
Got it. Thank you. It just helps me understand how closely you tie it. Last one on 395, 396 lines. Tell me when you're there.
395. Yes, sir.
Can a staff member enter into an agreement with a party to allow any other sound by their choice?
Well, let me give you.
Yeah, I just want an example. I
An
didn't quite
example. Any
get where that
other
fits.
sound authorized by government permit or contract, but only to the extent allowed by such permit or contract. Well, how about a siren on an emergency vehicle? That would probably be an example of something like that.
It's tied to the government concept, not
Yeah.
private. Okay, great, thanks.
Well,
That's helpful to understand.
it could be the way it's written. It could be a private concept if it's something that the government has decided to, to approve for whatever reason.
Right.
Would this be something like Long Doggers event?
Yeah, I read that as it's permitted, so therefore
Could be.
it's been agreed to, authorized to.
I was reading that as construction.
Pardon me?
I was reading that as construction. It's an example, you're going to remill.
Well, it could be construction related, but you have to also
Yeah,
read.
they already exempt that higher up for the,
There's a specific provision in here dealing with construction activities.
Actually, there's one for law enforcement, just 2 lines, or 3 lines above,
And there's one for
391.
concerts
So,
and street fairs and festivals
Yeah,
on
a whole bunch of these.
368 as well, so.
Rocket launches?
yeah,
Going back to Elon again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
so to close it out, I spent a little time looking at the charter, looking at the comp plan, the types of things that are supposedly the milestones. Regardless of opinion, what are the entity things that are supposed to say, hey, you're supposed to pay attention to this and wait to that, but also listen. So I'm going to I need to sort of hear, Paul, I appreciate your memo, by the way, breaking it down, because it was a long read and sort of complicated read for someone without a law background. But need to listen and understand what residents have to say about it. Can we find through the discussion some sort of consensus that seems to be working, to your point, amongst folks that right now it's focused on? Also thinking about, though not exclusively, I was thinking, what if I make a noise and my neighbor's upset, right? We're pretty close together, and it can apply to, I mean, we have more residential stuff than others. That doesn't exclude, the current situation of focus, but I gotta think holistically all the way. I don't want to cause an unintended consequence, and this is going to come down to enforcement is really going to be a big piece of this, because you can't tie this up, to your point, so tight that it's easy. There's still 12 points. There's some subjective choices and guidance, and we're going to have to trust into that enforcement mechanism. So thanks, Paul, for clarifying. That helps me understand.
I'd like to follow up on.
Yep.
I would say the essence of this, like the foundational underpinning is, it's all based upon what's reasonable under the circumstances. So there's the only hard and fast rules for the most part, time of day and the distance. But everything else provides a framework, like, guidance, factors to consider. None of them are, determinative exactly in that moment. So like, the 12 factors that we consider, it's not that, it has to be, 7 out of the 12, right? I mean, there could be one particular factor in the instance or the circumstance that is so overwhelming that maybe, the other 11 aren't met, that, okay, in this particular instance, it's deserving of a warning. So it's as Paul, hit on, prosecutorial discretion, essentially, under the circumstances, what is reasonable? And use this as the guiding framework to determine that.
I know distance has been mentioned by residents. What do you guys think of, instead of changing the distance, time of day, say 9 p.m. instead of 10 p.m.? Is that more reasonable, less reasonable than 300 versus 200? Anyone?
So I think the distance, as it relates, and Stu, you haven't had a chance to talk, is not just time of day, but 7 p.m. in the afternoon, well, evening, excuse me. If you're at home watching a show or having dinner and there's loud music at 7 p.m., that may be just as disruptive for individuals at 7 p.m., from my perspective. If a firecracker goes off at 6 p.m., I'm frustrated with it because it scares my dog, whether it's 6 p.m. or 3 p.m.
Right. But I think what we're looking at, if
I mean, it's a good question.
we don't reduce the radius, people inside the radius
I mean, it's probably
have to
better,
deal
but
with it
then-
anyway.
but then it becomes a sunrise, sunset, or is it really early now all of a sudden, and that becomes, you're in effect doing the same thing, but just maybe allowing for louder music earlier in the day, when it's maybe less disturbing.
Right.
I mean, it's a good thought exercise. I don't mind it, the discussion. Pragmatically speaking, I think there's probably, we'll hear from others as well. My other comment to that earlier was literally which way the wind blows. When you're, I mean, I can hear the train whistle coming like it's in my yard sometimes, and, anticipating when Margaritaville's up and running that we'll be, don't have to buy tickets sometimes. So there's that, but there's probably some allowance for that and some consideration for that. And obviously the ocean can be loud and other things, but that's allowed, understood and compensated for in this wording. So I think that helps with that. But there's extenuating circumstances that will, no matter what we do, there's gonna be some instances where there's gonna have to be consideration from either the person making the noise or otherwise. So.
Stu, did you have anything?
Yeah, a little bit. Anything shy of an actual sound meter's subjective. Now, I had the fortune of having a lab with a device used to test sound levels. It was very small sound levels, by the way, because we worked with office machinery. And the sound of a fan can be quite annoying if you have 100 of them in a confined space. And that's the type of thing we did. And the chambers were, I think it was $500,000 for the chamber, and that was a lot of years ago. And the testing process was several days. It was not several seconds or minutes. That's to get a calibrated meter. So the thought of a calibrated meter and every officer having access to one, it's kind of not practical. It's just expensive and complicated. And then you have to learn how to use the thing, which is even worse, to use it effectively. So now let's go back to subjective. I still like the idea that you stay consistent with the county. I think that's the easiest way to interpret it, the easiest way to apply it.
Fair enough. Anything else?
So may I ask Sergeant Weber, or it's Lieutenant now, get that correct. You all have a sound meter that is self-calibrating? Is it reasonable to use, hard to use?
Chief has not put it in service just yet. He's still working on getting it in service. My understanding, though, it's supposed to be somewhat easy to use, but it's not been put in service yet.
It didn't look complicated, but it usable. You'll test it out at some point and try it out and see what
I'd
happens.
imagine when he gets back next
Got
week
it.
or the week after.
And I get it. If there are multiple violations, you've got one, it's in one spot at one location, right?
Usually.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Is that it? All right, public comment time. All right, we'll go in order. Tim Musser. Name, address, 3 minutes.
Tim Musser, 505 North Miramar, right next door to Blue Beach. I downloaded a app for a decibel counter while I was sitting here, and I didn't have it, when you spoke real loud, I didn't have it on, but other than that, the highest recorded decibel was 83 decibels in this room. Okay, so we got that. Last night, I was woken up by machinery in the parking lot of Starbucks at 2 in the morning. They were doing something with the sewer, apparently, heavy equipment going, dropping stuff, woke me up. I didn't email all my neighbors. I didn't make a big deal about it. I didn't come to City Hall and complain. I put on my headphones and I went back to sleep because that's what I did. Okay. I sent an email to Emery, or a text, the owner of Blue Beach, said, Emery, you plan on keeping your bar open till 2 o'clock? He goes, the hours of operation are Sunday through Thursday, 9 p.m., Friday, Saturday till 10. There are no plans to open later. We will be disrupting our own overnight guests. So that should put an end to that. And that's all I got.
Thank you. Jeff Chandler. And this is specific to noise, right?
It is.
All right.
Jeff Chandler, 1101 South Miramar Avenue. A couple things. One, this is not going to stop with noise. There has been issues with setbacks. BB's has tried to comply in every manner. They've done wonderful things for the community. It's a beautiful place. I think you guys know where it came from. And they could shut down their entertainment tomorrow, and there will be something else dug up, and something else dug up, and something else dug up, and this is not going to stop. So, you know, to Mr. Wright's point, these two entities need to find a way to get along. If they don't, you will never find a solution to this problem, and somebody's feelings are going to get hurt. That's what's going to happen. So we can kick this noise all over the place. Get into the noise. I had a similar issue. I have a restaurant in Sebastian. I no longer have entertainment, and by the way, it actually helped my business. But I had the meter that you speak of. I was literally documenting, and you will see this when you get your meter, cars at 50 dB. You are gonna, the ocean way supersedes 50 dB at times. And good luck with that. What I'm saying is these two entities have to find a way to get along. And what one entity is doing is they are pushing everything to you guys and holding your feet to the fire. And it needs to come to an end. And you're not gonna stop it. At the end of the day, if BB's has to stop their noise, they're gonna stop it, but this is not gonna be the end. This is gonna keep going on. So be mindful of that, please. It's a great place. We don't want it to go away because you never know what's gonna end up there then. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Lucas Urali. This is about noise? Yeah. Okay, not personal attacks? No. Okay. Not that anybody's been personal attacking anybody, I'm just saying.
I just know that the person that is starting this lives about like 1,500 feet away from the hotel, so I don't understand how.
Oh, yeah, you need, name and address.
Oh, 501 North Miramar. And yeah, that's all I really had to say. Like, they live about, I think on the map I did, it was 1,584 feet away. So I don't really see how you could really hear anything from that far away if you're saying that the decibel meter barely reads from 300 feet. So that's all I had to say.
All right, thank you. Jim? Yes.
I'm Jim Seaton. I live at 601 North Miramar. As one of the residents adversely affected by the nuisance noise, I really appreciate the fact that the town is tackling this new ordinance and stuff. I applaud what you're doing. I think this plainly audible enforcement approach that was adopted by the Brevard County ordinances is the way to go. I mean, after all, this is what we hear, is the same thing a police officer would hear, and that's what's affecting our life. So I'm asking that the town council members take a stance not only on implementing this plainly audible, but also to continue to try to differentiate between the different zones within the town. The current ordinance that we have says you're allowed 65 decibels in commercial zones, but in residential, professional, and tourist zones, it's 55 decibels. So there was a reason for that originally, and it still makes good sense to translate the new rules into those kinds of differences between those different kinds of living conditions. So we want the council to adopt a plainly audible standard, but set the enforcement distance at 200 feet from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. and 100 feet from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. in those three zones. Keep the 300 feet, just like the county and the rest of the commercial zones and stuff, but, you know, help us out here with the noise issues. You know, I don't see a big reason that we have to stay in sync with the county. I mean, the whole reason we have a town council in a town here is because people didn't want to live in the county. They didn't like all those rules. So we have our own and we can do our own thing. Let's remember what the town charter says. The provisions of this charter are promulgated with reasonable consideration to the predominantly residential character of the town, with all other uses of land either incidental and convenient thereto, or if existing as a result of extraneous factors, being secondary in nature. That's what this town's about. It's a gem. You were elected to support and enhance the lives of the residents and the property owners, and I hope you won't take the easy or the lower risk approach. Because the town has refused to rigorously enforce the restaurant and outdoor cafe ordinances, and it's great right now they're saying they're going to quit at 10. What happens when the next owner comes? What do we do? We need an ordinance that will help us control this down the road. We've gotten almost no help from the town on most of these problems and complaints, but here's a chance you guys can do something to help out the citizens. 72 condos are within 300 feet of this place. 300 feet is too far to give us the quality of life that we thought we were buying when we purchased here. So I hope you'll have the courage to help us. I hope someone will make a motion to adopt the 200-foot standard for those three zones and give us some solutions here that'll help make life in paradise back to being in paradise.
Thank you, Jim. Claudio Esposito.
Yeah, my name is Claudio Esposito. I am a resident of 505 Miramar. I have two questions. I was informed that the Blue Bar Resort and Restaurant has a liquor license that allows outdoor restaurant to serve liquor till 2 a.m. Till 2 a.m. So my question is, based on the present town rules, county rules and state rules, will this business be able to stay open till 2 a.m. if he so decides? If he decides to stay open and he requests it, he has the license for selling liquors to the restaurant. Will he get a permit to do that? That's the first question. The second question is related to noise. I called once for noise, okay? And I'm not against business. I'm a businessman all my life. I appreciate and I like a business. But I called because with my sliding doors, hurricane-proof, inside my living area, I was listening to the noise. So when I called the police and I reported that, I found out that they take the measurement on A1A. We have a parking lot on A1A. You can make as much noise as you want on the parking lot, you know? So the noise reading should be taken on a linear from the building on the front towards the ocean where people live. This is a residential area, a fantastic area. People move here because of that. I'm 30 years here. Again, I'm not against business, but it is a residential area. It has to be kept within limits. There is a new building that is going to come up right south of this restaurant on my ex-property. I owned that property for 16 years, and I had a fantastic relation with the town, never a fine. And now I wonder when the owners that bought into that building will find out what they have in the front, how they will react. That's all. And my concern is the 2M.
Yeah, to answer the second question, was the new ordinance would be line of sight, as I understand it, correct? So you make a complaint, and they would come to your residence and
If they
visit
make a
that.
complaint, the gentleman just said, he should go on his terrace. I don't want, if he cannot come on my terrace, just come in the front of the building.
Right.
As long as it's within 100 feet, 150 feet, it would be reasonable.
Right.
Okay?
And then 2 a.m., and we don't issue the liquor license, that's the state, correct? And so that means they can't operate to 2 a.m., or whoever owns the liquor license at the time can operate till 2 a.m.
So the state issues a liquor license. Now, we have our ordinance covering the hours of alcohol being served, and it's till 2 a.m.
That's the scary thing to me. That's the scary thing. The moment the police will operate to 2
7-Eleven's
a.m.
open 24 hours a day, so we don't regulate the hours of operation, we regulate the noise and the way in which the business conducts itself during those hours.
Thank you very much.
Thank
for
you.
your-
Mr. Mayor, just as a side note, they're open at 2 a.m. now. Because they're a motel, exactly. Actually, they're open at 4 a.m.
Cynthia Bernstein, or Bernstein.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Bernstein. It's 601 North Miramar, and I should preface my remarks by saying nobody coerced me into coming here. I think that was inappropriately phrased. But 10 years ago, I traveled from Daytona Beach to Fort Lauderdale in search of a property on a beach where things would be quiet, peaceful, not dead, just an enjoyable oceanfront piece of property. I wanted something facing the ocean, and I wanted to hear the sounds of the ocean. And I realized that one person's music is somebody else's noise, and that is a personal decision. I met people, surprisingly to me, that didn't want to be on the ocean because they didn't want to hear the constant crashing of waves. But to me, that's the music that I wanted to hear, and I chose Indialantic, one condominium, because it was the perfect place for me. From my first floor balcony, I see only the ocean and the sea grapes leading to it, and the only lights I am accustomed to seeing are the lights of the stars and the moon, occasionally a cruise ship out there, but it's also a very quiet place, and at least until recently, and I just wanted to point out, and people might not know this unless they're there, that the sound from the Blue Bar does carry to the condo where I am. I don't know exactly how many feet that is, but I suspect it is more than 150 and less than 300 feet away from the Blue Bar. And hearing the sound on the balcony might be music to some people, but I would point to the definition of noise that the town included in this material today as low-frequency sounds caused by amplified bass music that can induce vibration in building structures or human beings. And that's what I feel and what I hear when I'm trying to unwind at the end of the day on my balcony. So I would encourage the town to consider an ordinance that would limit the distance, not just by the time of day, because it is a sound that carries, and when you're looking to hear the sounds of the ocean, you don't really want to hear the music of what sounds like a party that you're not invited to. But I do appreciate the business and that people like it. I have nothing against it. I just would appreciate the opportunity to have the quiet from my own private balcony. Thank you.
Thank you. Sue, is it Musson or Musser? Oh, Musser. You guys are related, I bet. Yes, we are. All right. Yeah.
Hi, Sue Musser, 505 North Miramar Avenue, right next to BB. Well, I have to tell you that I'm really disappointed in our community, that the world is crazy right now, and we're arguing over sound noise. People have choices. If you don't like hearing some music at night, sell your place, move. We can't stop celebration. People here are happy, enjoying life. I'm enjoying my retirement, and I'm really getting sick and tired of people complaining about BB. Why should the police be involved with, oh, they're making too much noise, I can't stand it? You don't think they have better things to do to watch over Indialantic than to go because they're saying that the music's too loud? Give me a break. Most of us are in bed by 10. I don't know about you guys, but I know I am. And we don't hear the noise, and we live right next door. It's wonderful. We need to celebrate more than to just go to the negative part. And like I said, I'm sorry that these people are complaining and wasting your time, because that's what I feel is going on. Let's live life. Life's too short. I just came back from California where my son had heart surgery, and I'm glad he survived. That's what's important in life. We also had someone in the community at 52. He died. There's going to be a paddle out in 2 days. I mean, why are we complaining about noises? It's just upsetting me so much that we're wasting your time, the police time, and your time enjoying your retirement.
Ma'am.
He's got to learn to enjoy retirement. Retirement is supposed to be, you worked all your life to enjoy it, not complain. And especially someone who doesn't live here 24/7. It's just not right. And I'm sorry that you're going through this. So that's it.
Thank you. Ginny, you're up again. Heptic, yes.
Ginny Heptic, 249th Terrace. I came to this community 30 years ago next month because of the way it was.
I don't know if 200 feet is an unreasonable request for a business that has a live musician that wants to play at a decent enough level, because nobody wants to eat dinner with, somebody yelling in their ear, screaming, loudly in their ear while they're trying to converse, and that's in that constraint of what the beach bar is. It's small. It's smaller than this room, right?
Right.
So imagine that we're in this room. You wouldn't want to have it extremely loud. So, and from a practical side of things, I think 200 feet would probably allow for enough elasticity for the business to be able to have live music at a reasonable level that would preserve at least some of the rights. Unfortunately, for the condo that's just to the south, if it's too loud, if they buy there and they don't like it, that's not going to solve their issue.
Right.
But we can't carve out everything.
Right.
Jeremy, next to him.
Hang on. I'm not opposed to the 200. I think, we're all looking for reasonability. I'm not opposed to the 300 if it was somehow limited to, not every night. Not that there's a live band at Blue Beach every night, or I don't even know how often it happens. But I think the possibility of having it every night is not a good thing. So if it was 300 feet and somehow limited, or down to 200 feet,
We're talking about specific implementation.
We
here,
are.
But the point being is that something else could come in at some point somewhere else, right? If somebody ever did decide, besides surf style, but that's not going to happen, go in on the boardwalk and put in a place.
So my neighbor said he plays music loud every night.
Yeah, right.
That would get old. I don't mind it every now and then.
Right, yeah.
But every night is the
But
problem.
I don't know, is 200 the right number, 250, 150, make it 150 all the time? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a level of, splitting the hair, so to speak, in terms of the distance.
Stu, did you have something? You look like you had something to say.
Actually, I do.
Okay, good.
Town's 3,000 people, 3,000 residents, couple over that. It's 2020 numbers. We need to, whatever ordinance we have, it needs to fit 3,000 people. Not 100, not 200, not 1,000, but 3,000. That's why I am comfortable with the county's ordinance.
It's fair. Brett, you have anything?
I think the county's is a good starting point.
Starting and go somewhere else with it, or?
I just think it's a good starting point for now. I mean, it's taking action and consistent, and you can see, you know, how the implementation goes. We need to curtail it, we can do that at a later date.
Lauren?
The challenge here is going to be enforcement. Whether I debated 200, 300, I don't think it's going to make a difference. There's a need for empathy on both sides. I don't know if that's going to happen. I think it's there. I think there'll be a willingness to try to find what works, and it's going to come down to the enforcement choices. So I'm not going to micromanage the distance. If someone pins their hopes on it, it's still going to come down to the subjective choices made to, Brett said it very, very well. So I'm amenable either way. I think we're going to have to try something that, I don't want it to continue, but we're going to have to find something that continues the discussion enough to a peaceful coexistence. And so I recognize why it's being brought before us. That's our job. Job is to listen. The beauty is folks are showing up and expressing themselves. So I'm open to either, but I don't believe that one number versus another is strictly going to address the issue.
I do have a question. Lieutenant, you mind if we put you on the spot? Practically, yeah. How would you enforce it?
It's dependent on the situation. It would be dependent on each case-by-case basis and how often we go out to the residences or the location. It would be dependent on, there's so many variables that we would look at before we'd make an enforcement action. If it's one house, one night, you know, once every other month, we're never gonna cite them for an ordinance violation because it's not every day. We go out there every day, sure, we're gonna start enforcing it, we're gonna start sending it to the code enforcement and things like that, but it's dependent on each situation. I couldn't give you a straight answer on a situation without knowing other variables.
Asking the question slightly differently, have you found many residents to be upset by one of your officers visiting and saying, hey, can you tone it down a little bit?
In my history here, yes, I've had residences, they don't live here anymore, that would have problems with us, but they just didn't really care about their neighbors and things like that and had a problem with it. The vast majority of our residents comply. If we go out there, we knock on their door and we say, hey, your party's too loud, they'll shut it down. Most of the time, even most neighbors are, you know, a little bit compassionate to the sense that they know it's 10 o'clock and they don't call us before 10 o'clock to file a complaint. Fireworks, totally different situation. But most of our noise complaints don't come in until after 10 o'clock. If they do, it's usually because it's really loud. It's a problem. And in those cases, they turn it down. We don't really have a huge problem with, you know, a lot of teenage kids partying and having a lot of ragers in their houses and things like that that we have to go out to on a regular basis. I can't think of one location other than this last few months that we've had numerous, you know, noise complaints. And I can tell you, I was asked earlier today to look into stuff. We haven't had a noise complaint at BB's in the last month. We haven't had one complaint come in. However, when we do have complaints, their management's usually, you know, they don't argue with us. So for the most part, our residents and our businesses will listen to what we ask them to do. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Sort of. I have one, if I can extend it just a while back to City Tropics. That was an issue with noise and with the, you know, adjacent streets.
Yeah.
You resolved it. How did we resolve it?
For me, so City Tropics was only here for 2 years since I started. I mean, we're talking many years ago. But even with City Tropics, they would shut down, but they were a 2 o'clock business at 2 a.m. or think they were 2 a.m., 2 a.m.
Yeah,
business.
yeah.
They were open till 2 a.m., so you heard noise coming from City Tropics at 2 a.m. in the morning. But at 1:59 in the morning, we had an officer in the parking lot. They were shutting down and pushing people out. It was done. Business was closed. And we didn't have any problems with it. There were still residents that were unhappy with the noise going that late, but it fell within the business. So we just shut it down by having an enforcement there. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Gogelman, a question for you. Kind of go back to the ordinance as written. At 300 feet at 8 o'clock, if I live within, inside of that, and I called and complained about a noise violation, and I felt it was unreasonable, and Lieutenant, whoever, came to my residence, what would happen if you're inside of that distance? Is there still a determination that it is unreasonable because it is not consistent with the density of some of the wording that's in the 12 bullet points there that allow you the latitude to make a determination as a code enforcement officer that even though I'm within the limit, are they still able to go? Obviously, they're always able to go ask. That's never an issue. But does that give them any enforcement option if it is unreasonable inside of the limit during the hours that is specified?
Under this particular ordinance,
Correct.
it does not.
So if they could be as loud as they want as long as it was within 259.9 feet.
Yeah, and I think this goes to another issue too, and that is it a one-time occurrence?
Yeah.
Or is this repetitious? Now, let's say it's repetitious. If it's repetitious and you're within the 300-foot or later at night 150-foot area, it may not violate the plain audibility standard under this ordinance. But I have to tell you, if I were running an establishment that was causing, consistently repetitious noise and generating a lot of complaints, even though I could get away with, oh, well, I'm more than 300 feet, I'm within the 300-foot limitation, I can violate the ordinance. One of my worries would be, oh, the ordinance isn't working. What's going to happen is the people that are complaining and the town authorities are going to look at tightening the ordinance further. They're going to look at changing it to, 200 feet or, whatever it may be. So, which kind of gets me back to Councilmember Miller's comment is it's a starting point, what you've got here. This may not be, where you end up. On the other hand, it may work well. And obviously, one of the factors that's going to be determinative is, again, looking back to code enforcement and our police officers, how successful they are with working at, individual cases that are either actual violations or nuisance situations that don't necessarily violate the ordinance.
Oh.
Do it.
All right. All those in favor of approving ordinance 2024-07, first reading, as written, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right.
Say nay when you say vote against it? Yeah, that works. Yeah.
Oh, you Renee?
No, I'm Doug. I'm not Renee.
There was some cross chatter, or do you have something to bring up?
Oh,
Yeah, I was just pointing out to Paul, when you were all talking about this, we actually have another ordinance about disturbing the peace, and the hours for it is between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. So it's consistent with what our other ordinances have in there.
okay. How does that play into what we were just talking about?
Well, again, it's consistency. You have a standard that, of 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., that you're looking at as being when you're within that 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. timeframe, that is subject to a higher level of regulation. And I think what the manager's pointing out is that in the ordinance that's in front of you right now, that's the standard that's been set. And then the ordinance that he's looking at as far as disturbing the peace, which is a totally different section of the code, it's the same standard. So there's uniformity. Your standards are consistent.
So does disturbing the peace play into this at all? It's inside earlier than 10 p.m.?
I don't know. I'd have to look
Okay.
back and.
Yeah, the ordinance only addresses from disturbing the peace from 10 to 7, 8.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right,
Which would be the 150 feet as it's currently written,
right.
at least from my interpretation. Yeah. Fair enough.
So you did vote? Correct. Okay, I didn't hear you. Cool.
Nay.
Okay, so 4-1. All right, moving on. Unfinished business.
Have we taken a vote on this, or?
Yeah, while you guys were talking.
We were chatting, they did.
Okay, I'm sorry.
4-1.
Yeah, 4-1. Unfinished business. Discuss the special event application fee. And you guys, if you don't want to listen, you guys can go. You don't have to stick around.
One quick question, please.
Regarding,
Kind of what you're going on with right here, I think, sort of, kind of.
Moving on.
we're done with it. We're done with that, so,
You're talking about a variance for special things to happen around the town?
no, it's just an application fee.
Okay.
Application fee for special event. But, I mean, you're welcome to stay.
I'm asking about a special event.
I got you. We'll get to public comment then.
I'll ask one of the police officers afterwards.
Okay. Let's see, where'd we leave this off?
So we did some research talking about special event things. Right now, we do not charge it for any special events.
Right.
Melbourne Beach, Satellite Beach, Melbourne, Indian Harbor Beach, all charge for those. And so we came back and we worked out the salary numbers for like the employees and staff time. And it's not a simple answer to say, hey, this is a flat fee. I think it's important that we have a different ratio between a special event where it's taken like our administrative assistant time to do that, very little of our other time where the police aren't involved, and I kind of broke it down to, special event, and then I broke down a special event involving police security and/or food trucks. Because when it has police security, they have the meetings set up and how to do the security plan and off-duty officers. That takes a lot of Lieutenant Weber's time. And then also the fire department to inspect the food trucks. And then I broke it down to a little further. We're not looking to make money, we're just looking to recoup some of our cost. Any event that has a 5K or races that involve road closures, because then that involves more time of me, and then the staff, the police also, because they had some security things, so it sets it up. So I was gonna recommend, that we do it as like $75 for just a regular special event, not involving one of the special things. 150, a special event involving police, security, and/or food trucks. And then any 225 to cover when there's a special event that involves road closures. And I also would propose that in that caveat, kind of like Satellite Beach does, that gives us the option for nonprofits like the Sea Turtle Preservation Society.
Right.
Things like that. But we don't have too many races right now for profit, but if, like the Florida Marathon, they came in and they wanted to do something and do a run, it's for profit, that we charge for profit.
Sure.
And that would be the same for the other two categories.
You're looking to do a flat rate, not necessarily a, say, $75 fee plus hourly rate. You would just do a flat rate.
Right.
Does that cover costs?
Doesn't cover cost, helps recoup some of them.
Well,
Everyone's different.
Yeah.
Right, I understand
We're not
that.
gonna keep a time card, I wouldn't think.
I think my only concern here comes down to like the food truck inspection. I kind of watched it during the pollinator fair, and the two firefighters were very diligent in the way they went about it, but it does take a lot of time. Now, yes, their truck is there. If they had a call, they would have gone. So it doesn't add time. But it is a difficult job to do.
We could break it down too, just, it's like a special event and then add a fee on for food trucks. Any of those items, because they could have it at a 5K or regular, like the craft show and things. So anything like that, we could maybe additional, just take that off and then, like the 5K run. And then if you have a food truck inspection event, because most of those are, for like long doggers and stuff like that, we could add another like $150 fee for that to help cover recoup some of the cost of them, the chief and the firefighters that are out there.
Right.
And I think we run into a problem, especially with the art shows. The vendors come with their portable generators, great. Their 5-gallon can of fuel, fine. No fire extinguisher, not fine.
That's why we have the inspections.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
And those, I guess, services that we provide, they aren't covered in the cost, I guess.
No, right now, we're not charging any fee at all, so we're not recouping.
Oh,
anything.
right. So, well, overtime is paid though, right? For on-site stuff?
Yeah, this is just the application.
Right.
Yeah, it's an application fee. No, well, like, if it involves like hiring an officer for security, they take care of that. We don't provide that. So that's it. But the planning meetings leading up to it, or the road closures and things.
Right.
The fire department doesn't take any pre-planning to go out to inspect the truck. It's one of those things. There's a little bit of time involved with the chief approving special events and things.
Okay. Discussion?
So we're thinking like a small flat fee, whether it's 25 or $50 for there's on here's a block party. I don't know if we even charge for block
I
parties.
don't wanna do block
We'd
parties at all.
exempt like community, local community, small events somehow,
Yeah.
whatever the threshold is.
Not like
Unless-
Melbourne for block parties. I don't want to do block parties at
Okay,
all.
fair enough. And then there would be events smaller than this, get this, events larger than that, get that fee. And then if there's a food truck, we would have a separate fee. And then would we want a multiplier by that? Because if they have one food truck versus 10, I'm just using it for a fact, not that we have that many, but.
Most of them have multiples. They don't just have one. And we could, if they had one, we can weigh that out a little bit and give good discretion.
I mean, you guys can have administrative latitude to make those decisions based on the circumstances
Yeah.
at hand, but I'm just thinking, we don't want to have a Chinese menu of things, Victoria, there would be,
And I consider a special event anything that
that's right.
requires a special event permit. So like block parties aren't that, it's just, I work with them, get petitions, or like the golf cart parade is not a special event signed by me and things like that. So if they get a special event permit, that's when it takes staff time.
Do we need to have an ordinance for this? Or is-
Resolution?
We'll have to look at it, to be honest with you, to answer that question.
Okay. So I think we're all on board with,
At the least, you need a resolution. You may need an ordinance, though.
okay, so we're all on board, consent. All right, Lauren?
So this is going to sound like a silly question, Mike, but I want to understand put on my business hat for a minute. How much money do you want to recoup in general? Is it like 50% of the total cost of ownership? Is it 75? What do you, when you say I want to offset, how much as the administrator do you want to offset?
I mean, theoretically, I'd be happy at 100%, but the reason we're not trying to do everything, about 50% or so. And looking at the numbers from these events, like we said, when I said 150 for the fire department. So I've got chief's time in there, plus 2 hours for each of the firefighter and captain. So that right that there shoots you to about $150 approximately.
Yep, so
That's not
good.
covering benefits, I'm just talking straight salary.
Right.
There's other costs that we,
Benefits, so I wrote down, there's benefits, we're not counting, opportunity costs, they could be doing something else. So to cut right to the chase, the numbers given as the average was about $463 worth of time in the example that we gave. That is staff time, salary time. So it was no small amount. Thank you for the numbers, by the way. That helped me really ascertain from a business viewpoint, what do you want to recoup? Okay, if your policy that you'd like to do is 50%, that is, okay, some of our monies are going to subsidize this as taxpayer money, but you want to recoup 50%, then a $250, or $200 or so is appropriate from my viewpoint. I would hope you don't try to recoup under 50%. I think that this is a fair amount of staff time. I was surprised at the amount of effort. And remember, they're doing that. They're not doing something else that may be a benefit to the community. So I encourage it to be a little higher, frankly, in the fees, or at least, like you're saying, not a Chinese menu to Doug, but have a structure that allows you to recoup at least 50%. I'm on board, because that's no small amount of staff time. Do you think that's reasonable, Mike,
I think it's reasonable. Like I said, on a basic one, it's $75, we are recouping most of their costs because it's mostly the administrative assistant, very little time on other things. But when you get to the more complex ones is where the money adds up.
But it depends on the insurance, because when I read it, right, Victoria said, hey, there could be a lot of time back and forth with the insurance component related to that, and that's sort of out of our control. It's nice when it's lined up. When it's not, it might be a fair amount of time going back and forth. And the administrative assistant is not the highest, but also not the lowest. It's a mid-tier, so at least $75, because if you do have a few back and forths, I could see
Yeah. I think
that
she had
time
two,
eaten up
two,
very
two or
quickly.
3 hours in there or something, what her estimate was, and that would be $75, would be almost 100% of that, but it takes other staff time just to sign off on it.
To your point, so I'm encouraging us to consider a little higher even, just because the numbers, I think, dictate it based on what they're efficiently doing on their average. I'm okay going higher, but you don't have to if his policy is to recoup less.
Yeah, I think if we're gonna err on one side, I would err on the side of more. We don't want to lose out more on it. So,
Yeah, I echo that sentiment. We might want to go a little bit higher. Just so I understand the procedure, though, planning on coming back kind of with a more formalized proposal as far as the structure, like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, this is what it encompasses, and this is the exact proposed rate, and then we can all kind of like bat around the proposed rate. Is that what our thought is?
Okay.
Oh, I'm not saying that I just asking.
Trying to get a dollar amount, and we come back with a more formal one, whether it has to be by ordinance or that. What would you say just for a basic, simple special event?
Examples of those type of events
Yeah, I
help
was gonna
me
ask, yeah.
understand what it means.
So,
how about I was gonna say, how about we can let Mike come back with some numbers, right?
Well, I think he's trying to get our input here.
yeah.
Oh.
Real quick.
But he knows if the policy is, I'm going to interject, if
Yeah,
the
that's
policy is 50% of the recouped cost, he knows what the cost is, we know what 50% is, he knows those numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
He's really dictating them from his end, from a business
Right.
viewpoint. So if you feel comfortable with it, but to me, that's why I asked your policy, because you're choosing against the numbers what it is. So I'm comfortable with you coming back, because it's still going to be, even at 2 hours of an admin assistant time, right? You're running about $70 right there for just the admin, let alone the sign-offs for a simple one. So,
I'm looking at the Melbourne schedule, which is based on attendees. Take the block party out, because that doesn't make sense. But is that easier to formulate, just to go by attendees, predicted attendees?
Do people know that, though? I mean, like with the pollinator fair, did they have any idea how many people were going to be there? Probably not.
Well, yeah, and
but that's
people might not.
nonprofits, we probably would have
Oh,
accepted it
yeah.
anyway, so.
Yeah, but we don't know, like, Long Doggers event. We know they have over it, but we have somebody else coming in and doing something, they're like, oh, no, we're going to have 500 there.
Right, you're right.
We don't know the true number.
They could lowball it. Oh, yeah, we got 10 people coming in 1,000.
And this is not for managing the event, this is for just the application and inspection process, so it really doesn't matter how many attendees in the
Well,
end.
yeah, as long as the,
We
as
kinda
long
know
as
this.
the work, staff work doesn't scale with the number of people, which
Right.
it shouldn't.
Unless there's
directly.
more food trucks, because they think there's gonna be 1,000 more people or something
Right.
like that. But, it would help me if I had an understanding of, kind of what the tier system is, as far as like, what is a simple $75 to $100 event? Because I might be more strong and encouraging, oh no, it should be $100, not 75, or, and yeah, so if we could kind of like figure out what, examples are, it doesn't have to be right this second, but examples are of a simple one, and the potential range we're considering, what a second level one would be, and that potential range, and then same for the third. But I get the sense that we're pretty much all comfortable and maybe mildly advocating for erring on the side of a little bit higher than,
Higher than 50%?
yeah, I mean, why not? Like, I don't think it's gonna dissuade anybody from applying, and, like you said, the opportunity cost, this is, valuable time that we're spending, so.
And then another question for you is like Melbourne charges, and I think Victoria, when she put this in her hours, a lot of the special events are business-related that are having special events of their property. And that's where she goes back and forth with the insurance with them and things. So do we want to include that in there also? Like Melbourne has a $75 fee for business promotions, or $50 fee.
Yeah, I mean, if it takes staff time.
Yeah, to Lauren's point, I think, based on your understanding and staff's understanding of the work associated with that category of permit, I think that's fine. The way I look at it is that there's a couple, I guess, 2 categories or 3 categories. One is residential events, right? We want to support those. People pay taxes. We should not charge them for services that they've already paid for or are paying for, which is what you.
Residential, not business.
Residential, right.
Yeah.
Businesses do pay taxes as well. Maybe they're residents, maybe they're not. And if there is time to go back and forth with insurance or whatnot that I'm not familiar with, and I certainly don't have an understanding of the number of these events that go on, so I don't know how much time we're losing, but donating for these activities. So I think that's appropriate. Events, what we think of special events, 5Ks, marathons, long joggers, dance parties, those things absolutely are being run for the most part, unless they're nonprofit, are being run for the benefit of those entities, whether they're making money or breaking even. That's none of our business. So we should be charging them fair. To Lauren's point, in accordance with what we think it'll charge. It'll take to recoup at least 50%.
Yeah. You good with that?
I'll formalize something, come back.
Or 75.
Yeah, I think shoot for 75.
I mean, something in that range is reasonable and fair, but because I think we do enjoy having those events in our town for the most part.
And I'll get with Paul and research whether we have to do an ordinance
Okay.
or a resolution.
Public comment? All right, moving on. All right, discuss the Fifth Avenue Christmas and decorations light pole banners. We have some, or in the packet, I don't have it, well, I do have it in front of me. We had some,
Very nice, actually.
I thought they were pretty cool. I don't know if everybody's seen them. Mike, is it easy to get these up on the TV, like right now?
I don't. Trying to think of
I mean, I don't want to like drag it out anymore, but I was just going to show everybody the 5 people we have here.
I have one quick question.
We can plug your computer into it.
It's about time.
Oh, we can plug your
Yeah.
computer in, Mayor, the HDMI cable, and I can share it that way.
Where is it?
It's right over here.
Yeah, but you got USB-C, I think.
Oh, I have a USB-C.
Oh,
You don't have the HDMI?
I don't think you
No,
do.
those thin books don't have they're not
I don't have one either.
robust enough to.
Do you want me to hook it in and then find the?
Oh, we won't worry about it, unless you can do it without talking. Anyway, so we got the quote from Joe. Joe, did you have an opinion on any of this?
Hold your breath.
Bold new world.
No, the quote I got from Teresa, I think is pretty fair, and I think it'll look nice.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You might want to mention, so the quote was just for the cost of the banners.
No, this
plugged
is
in,
for
Mike.
the lights.
No, we're banners.
We're talking about banners.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mike, it's plugged in if you want to switch to it.
Oh, yeah.
Seeing it?
It's on his screen, you can see it.
Hold on, give me a second here.
I see when you scroll, I see it over there. He's got like a
You can do
NASA,
it, Mike.
NASA, there's a lot of buttons.
Non-control guy.
There's a lot of buttons on that iPad. There we go, all right. It's a bold new world.
I can put it up, I'm just,
So those are the 4 banners, right?
Yeah, is that what you want? Up?
Although we are going to have to change it a little bit there, Mark. There are 14 poles on one side, I believe it's the north side, and 15 on the south. That being said, we want to alternate each pole with a different
Yep.
theme. So we're going to need 2 of the Independence Day, 2 of the holiday of Christmas, 2 of fall, and 2 of summer. So the price won't change. It'll still be 112 banners for the price. That's,
Oh, I see what you're saying. So
yeah.
it'd be
So, yeah,
8
we
different
wanna have-
banners.
Yeah, we want to definitely kind of switch it up.
I gotcha. And do we have an approximate life on these?
1-year warranty on both the hardware, bracket, and poles for the banners, as well as the banners, 1-year warranty. To be determined on how long they'll last because of the sun beating on it.
But you gave an
Hardware,
estimate,
I'm
right?
sorry.
You gave an estimate on the hardware, was what was
Yeah,
the
it's
lifespan
8 to
about?
10 years for the hardware
So
and
8
the
years
brackets and poles.
Conservatively?
For the hardware?
For the
So,
hardware.
yeah, with roughly every 10 years, we'll be replacing the poles and the brackets and the hardware.
And what was the cost of the actual banner each, do you know?
Yes.
Was that in there?
It's right
Yeah,
here.
Yeah, all up,
Yeah,
it's got it right here.
Give me one second. I think per banner, it is,
Oh, I see it.
yeah,
$90,
$87,
okay,
roughly,
okay.
$90 per banner.
Yep, I see that.
Yep.
One question, do we have to have FDOT approve this?
not the banners, we
I
have to
don't-
have FP&L.
Just FP&L, but I'm working with Sue Park. I sent her an email, and she sent it out to her rep. I can see if I have it.
Michelle?
I'm not sure if it was Michelle or not, sir. Let me see. if she-
And it was 1,300 per change out?
No.
That's not including the,
Mike, I'll take it out.
our cost
Switch
of
off.
the employee cost. I need 3 employees because I need 2 trucks and 1 in the boom.
Oh, we can do it. We don't have
Do
to farm it out.
And that's just the rental of the trailer-mounted boom,
Right,
so.
okay.
And no, I did not get a response from FPL. So as soon as I know, I can blast it out to all the council members.
Thoughts? Stu?
I've always liked the idea.
Doug?
No, I think it'll look good, it'll be seasonal, we can change it out.
Mhm.
It's not Christmas lights, but it's at least gives us some flair.
Right.
And then I saw the letter from Palm Shores, any consideration or feedback you guys think, it sounds like you've looked at it, you've read their concerns or their issues that they had, and you think we can deal with it.
My response to that is, we were spending $6,000 a year for 30 days of decorations.
Yeah, no, the
Right.
cost wasn't as big a deal, it's just so much that they had to rent the lift and upkeep, but I think if we're rotating them, and I think we'll be all right, we'll try it out, and.
Right. I mean, some would argue 6,000 for 30 days of decorations is not worth the money.
Excessive, yes. I mean, in hindsight, yes.
Right.
But I don't think anybody would
No,
fight that if we
No.
propose putting them back either.
no, they would not.
Mr. Mayor, also add another $1,000 a year for the insurance.
Yeah.
So we're at about 13,000 a year.
Oh, 14, yeah.
Well,
For the first year.
About 15,000 for the first year.
now.
And if they make it more than that, then
Or initial setup, I'm sorry, because the repetitive changing out for season.
Then also the change of the season, that's not included in that. What
Right.
are I gave Joe the numbers earlier, their fee for changing them out themselves is like $5,000 a,
Well, annually, you'll have your $1,000 a year renewal on your insurance, which will
Right.
go up whatever it does. And then you'll have $1,300 is the rental of what they're using for equipment, but he's not including his salary. He's being generous. I mean, it's going to take 3 people to do it. So it's probably going to be, what, 2,500 maybe?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
3,000
Probably about
total
2,500, 3,000.
change out. But the
First season.
hardware's up there, which is nice. They're going to slide, you slide them on and off, looks like with the grommets, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, for the company to do it was quite high. It was like.
It's a lot
5
cheaper to
grand.
have them do it. The one-time install cost will be about 15, but all the banners would be purchased, and he's suggested multiple banners, so we can have them changed throughout the season, right?
Right.
Now, I did meet with Pat Burke on a different subject, and she brought it up right away about this, I guess she had gotten the email from Molly. So it has proven over the years, and they've been doing it for several years, to be a little more expensive and a lot more maintenance than they expected. They're right there on US 1, the water on their east side. Then you get a lot of wind, so just for consideration, we may be changing out banners a little faster and more frequently than we think.
Yeah.
So it's not just the cost of the material, it's that labor cost to have somebody come do it.
Well, we could always try it and then preemptively cycle them out, so it's not 12 grand every 2 years or whatever, or every year. Because that would be a lot of money in the long run, but, maybe after the first year, buy half of them new again, so that way they're continually cycling, but that can be figured out. Lauren, you have anything?
Julie McKnight would be proud, right? She's working towards this. A lot of the town residents really like having the festive feeling. I think it's a good investment. Lots of people keep bringing it up, right? Why don't we have lights? So it's something that's wanted, and it's wanted across a diversity of people. And it gives other ability to, while we don't want to open Pandora's box, it may give other things that, Parks and Recs, the Heritage Committee might appropriately, right, if they raise the money for the banners or whatever, can also use those to honor the town. That's something that Pam and her team, because I've seen certain things for Veterans Day and honoring, fire, police, service of things are good. So I think it's a good move, and it's reusable in a way, and Joe feels very amenable to doing it, and it'll give a good visual appeal to the town and that cohesiveness. So I think the numbers are reasonable, and Joe, with what he gave me prior to the meeting, yes, there's an upfront cost. It'll probably be just a little lower than $15,000 the first year, and it'll be maybe $3,000 if you include the salary time, which we don't really talk about, right? But we're not paying a third-party company to do it. Joe can do it when there's a lull in wherever he wants to in his workflow. So I think it's a very reasonable amount for a good benefit that people will like.
Right.
Excuse me. How about if we do, instead of 28, do 14 for the first year? Just a thought. So
Yeah.
you're skipping every other poll.
I thought that was the plan.
No, actually, it's every poll, sir, that will get a banner on it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, every other.
There's 28 polls.
Seems a lot.
How long they get done throughout the Christmas, or when we used to have
Is
Christmas.
it both sides, or is it just the north?
14 on each side. So why don't we just do half? See where half gets us.
Yeah.
Then next year, buy
Yeah, I
another
like
half.
yeah.
Just food for thought.
Yeah, no, that's worth it. Because that gets you back into the, the 2 cycle, so first year it's every other, second year it's all polls, except half of them are new.
Right.
So I'm good with that. Brett?
I think that's a great idea. Also for the Christmas time, if you think about it, or the holiday time, 2 of these designs complement each other.
Yeah.
So you could still actually have all of them full,
Yeah, you can use those
by
two.
alternating. I certainly support it by going half. I've supported it before, but I think this is going to be one of those scenarios where no good deed goes unpunished. Because everyone's going to be like, it's just going to lead to, oh, you guys spent money on banners? What about the lights? Oh, that was awful. And I still think we should do it, but I just think it's going to make some unreasonable people pipe up a little bit. And particularly if the cost, was in that 15,000 range, or if they were to discover that. So I do think by starting out with half, it's a good idea. Another way to potentially save, I don't know, on cost for the installation and taking them down and such, do we need to, is the idea that we would normally rent like a scissor lift or something of that nature, or?
Yes, sir. That
Okay.
was, my cost I did, it was $1,300 just for the lift for the week
Yeah,
and 3 guys.
yeah.
So, yeah, if we had the company do it, it was $5,200, I believe, $5,050.
That's
So,
great,
yeah, we're
saving,
roughly
yeah.
$4,000.
What I'm wondering is, friends with Melbourne Beach's old mayor, Wyatt Hoover, and we used to talk about, there's 2 municipalities here, but it's really kind of like one larger, right, area, and it's like, man, if we could share resources, sometimes that would be really helpful, maybe we enter into some sort of like indemnity agreement, or assume liability if we break their stuff, but to my understanding, they have a bucket truck.
Yes, Brett, that is, we can use that as well. Tom Davis already said we can use it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And I'm sure the residents down there would support that because, they pass through Fifth Ave on the way to Melbourne Beach. And then I like the designs. I didn't know is this set or does it matter? I mean, I like them. I just didn't know if people were gonna.
There are catalogs of these things.
Oh, okay.
I looked it up several years ago. I mean, these are some of the typical ones you see in the catalogs of almost everybody.
Yeah.
But
That makes sense.
it's like an endless selection. These are
Right.
a nice selection of them. I think.
Sounds great to me.
We send it to Parks and Rec for them. I don't want to pick it. That's my bag, not my bag.
Yeah, that's kind of my bag,
Yeah.
too. I don't want to pick it.
I'm
I also don't-
fine with that.
I just don't want to put us in a position that we get into a First Amendment nonsense over, celebrating this holiday, what
Yeah,
about
yeah.
these other 5?
That's a
So
fair point.
As neutral as we can keep them, the best we can do.
Yep. Sounds good.
But, by the way, bucket truck, great idea. Love to hear if we could swap that out. That's a savings. The other thing is we always can ask for, if we felt there was a cost offset, what else do you do? You ask around for donations in a way, not crying poor, but we do have very generous, very kind residents that sometimes may step up. So if there was an outcry, my answer would be, we still like the idea. I think lots of residents like the idea, and we could always do an ask and see what comes in, right? We have funded other things and people have been kind. So if that type of pushback occurred, I wouldn't back off of it. I would just say, could we offset a little, right? How much is reasonable?
But with that, I would say, I'm pretty sure the Park and Rec Committee would like to probably donate some money out of their Which Way 5K profits, because they're the one who's been pushing for this.
Yeah. And they can pick the designs.
Yeah, and just real quick on the Melbourne Beach thing, me and Joe talked about it. We'd have to still go through, we have it in the back of it, but we haven't got it approved. The Public Works Director said it, but I have to go through the manager or
Yeah, fair.
down there.
Right. Okay.
That would be optimal,
And the manager's a resident of Indialantic.
yeah.
So what do you need anything from us to move forward?
Basically, if you want to move forward, just kind of, if we're going to do half, maybe make a motion, whatever you guys are looking for, if it's like only 14 of the 28 this year, that way we can work into the budget and things.
Yeah. All right. Is there a motion?
Go ahead, Doug.
I'll make a motion that we authorize, there you go, that's the right A word, authorize the town manager and the Public Works Director to proceed with getting quotes and procuring 14 banners and poles and hardware for 14 on the north side and 14 on the south side for a total of 28 banners.
Or going 14 to 28?
With up to four different designs at the behest of whatever Parks and Recs decides.
Wait, are we just doing half?
There's 14 on the north, 14 on the south, 28. It'd be 56 if we did all
No,
both
it's
sides.
14.
No, it's total, we would need a total of 56 to be half of the banners. And it'll be between that divided by 4, which I don't really think you can get.
How many are on each?
There's going to be 7
All right,
on each side.
all right, let me
7 on each side, because right now there's
strike that
14.
from the record. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
We're just going to authorize the town manager and the Public Works Director to proceed with procuring brackets, hardware, and banners, brackets and hardware for half of the poles on Fifth Avenue, and 4 different banners to coincide with that quantity of brackets and hardware. And to procure insurance, and to.
Associated costs.
Associated costs, and to enter into any necessary agreements with the town of Melbourne Beach to authorize use of their bucket truck.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, we've been discussing it.
Public.
Yeah, public comment. Yep. You gotta come up, name and address every time.
All right, I just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
I didn't give you the paper. Ginny Heptic, 249th Service, and no, I'm not a pain in the patootie. I'm sorry. My understanding, there's no illumination.
Correct.
Boo.
Yeah.
Secondly, I was trying to get a picture when he had it up on the screen.
Yeah.
But I did catch something saying it's a 30 by 60 banner. 14 banners this long.
Well,
and-
it's
and
30
double
inches
the-
by, yeah.
30
Yep.
by 60.
Yep.
Because I'm almost 5'8". That's big. You don't need every pole. Because it's overdone. I mean, no offense, but since before you were mayor, we've been missing decorations. Because the light poles couldn't support the electric anymore.
Yeah, well,
And
there's
that's
more
why
to
there
it
were
than
so
that,
many
but yeah.
outages.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm a little disappointed there's no illumination, especially for the holidays, not Christmas.
Yep.
That season.
You want to explain why?
Yeah,
briefly?
so.
Yes,
We're doing every other poll, so that's what we just.
So,
And the other thing is, maybe come Halloween through Thanksgiving, have a bucket in town hall or something to donate for his men to get some money.
yep.
That way it's not coming out of the town fund. The townspeople are showing their appreciation instead of the luminaries that they put out in the streets.
Right.
Put your luminary money into the bucket for paying the guys to put them up, because that is a huge savings.
Yep. So as far as the lighting, we're actually working on landscape lighting in the median that will change colors. So it won't go up the tree, but it'll be all year round. So you can change them based on 4th of July, regular, average
So we
day.
have electric in the median, but we didn't have electric on the poles.
Explain why.
Can I,
Yeah.
Right? Is that what they're
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah.
ma'am?
Man, we just.
I'm not,
We
go
would
ahead.
love to.
The reason,
We would love to.
FPL owns those poles out there, right? They stopped allowing electricity to be hooked to them, to their electricity, so we're not allowed to hook their electricity out there. So we can't attach anything on their poles that they own that has electricity attached to it.
We could if we wanted to pay it for a meter, but a meter was like $5,000 a pole or something.
Yeah, you have
correct?
to, yeah, it's like $5,000 a pole for 14 or 28. So it's FPL that stopped it, not us.
I'm not, so how are you getting electric into the median?
We're
area
running
to
it
have
completely
these
separate.
lights?
No, it's not going off FPL poles. It'll be a separate run that we'll put out there from town hall.
Because of the median project,
Right.
due to DOT's changes.
FPL does not own the median, they own their poles, though.
Okay, so now how does Melbourne have their little bows and lights go up for Christmas?
They own their poles.
They own the poles.
And we don't own our poles?
No, that's a CRA area, and they
Okay.
bought the poles in their CRA. So if they wanted to go down like on actually Strawbridge where City Hall is, they could not do that because FPL owns those poles.
Okay,
We could
Yeah.
acquire the poles at a lot of money, plus training, plus upkeep, and we don't do any of that.
You want to open that?
They would rent back to text us at 3 times the amount to maintain the same poles.
So-
Cost prohibitive to buy and own that infrastructure. It'd be millions.
so the bad electrical contacts so that the lights kept going out was part of the reason, and now FPL has voided the whole thing and said, hey, you want to have light on there to use?
I haven't
You got
heard
to pay a
that.
meter.
They have nothing to do with each other. The
Well,
FPL
now, see, now you're
Whoa,
contradicting.
whoa, hang on. The poles are owned by FPL. We leased the poles and the light on the poles from FPL. We pay monthly for each light and each pole. Now, the holiday decorations, that becomes a little device on the pole that we own, that we have to replace roughly every 3 years. They have about a 3-year life. They're expensive. Then the light device, the thing we rent from Display Designs,
Yeah.
those are extremely expensive, obsolete, very few people have them anymore or even offer them. Now, FPL says, we don't want those on our poles anymore.
Okay,
You know, if you want to put them up, you have to insure them. We don't want to provide power to it unless we put a meter on it. we're just not going to allow it, is essentially it. Ongoing discussions have been going on for at least 5 years with FPL, probably more, but I think I heard.
But all the council was giving us as residents was that we're not paying to change over the poles, and now the poles are getting changed.
No, the poles aren't
No,
getting
the poles aren't getting changed.
The poles stay the same. We're adding hardware to
We're
the
talking
poles.
two different poles. She's talking the light poles.
The
Yeah.
light poles.
Yeah, so the light poles that FPL owns, any issue with the electrical lights that FPL has nothing to do with the Christmas lights, has nothing to do with anything the town does.
So now we're having twice as many poles because FPL's got their poles and we've got our
We're
electric
gonna take the
poles.
existing poles, and we're gonna put posts that come off the side that we're gonna hang the banners from top to
That,
bottom.
I catch
Yeah,
that.
and
That was,
that's the only thing we're
we
doing.
were supposed to have town banners when
Yeah,
we
yeah,
had
yeah.
our
Yeah,
centennial.
and we're adding those to the existing FPL streetlights, that no electricity. We have to get insurance and approval. That's all we're doing on the FPL poles.
Okay,
For
well,
the
that's what it
median,
is.
for the median, with the new median, we can cross-bore electrical and run it off of the meter, the electrical meter at the town hall, and therefore, we are still paying for electricity, and FDOT, different FDOT now
Yeah.
has to approve it because it's in-street lighting. But they won't allow lighting on the trees. FDOT won't allow lighting on the trees.
Okay,
Because it'll
well-
distract our drivers.
It's disappointing, but at least something's getting done.
And trust me, we're.
Thank you.
Well, and the good news is we're looking into lighting up Douglas Park. So when you come down the bridge, there will be a nice light display.
Oh, that is true. Good point.
Everybody will be really happy that there's some sort of lights.
Yes, yes.
Maria Andrus, 1145 North Shannon. In the pictures that were chosen, I don't know, if you said they are the permanent ones that are going to be chosen. They're all, okay, good. I understand there's a catalog and those are cute and all, but can we like elevate the feeling of the town? And maybe the town has certain colors we can use on the banners for the background, whatever, but something that then would become a signature of Indialantic in the long run.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to give it to Parks and Rec and Beautification, and they can figure that out. But that's a good idea.
And they can do custom-made banners, which cost more.
Right. Right. Okay.
We should do, I have a really good idea, we should do an old picture of the poles with lights on it.
Just to stick it to FPL.
Yeah.
We got lights on the poles.
Yeah. Or just the green and white one that says Christmas decoration on it. How you like them? All right, moving on. We need to vote, right?
So is that completed by?
Yes,
No, we
we
were-
do. Yeah,
No, we just made a motion, then we had public comment.
Motion's on the floor.
for a
So we
resolution.
need to vote.
Yeah, yeah. All right, all those in favor of approving the motion by Doug as it pertains to the Christmas decorations, light pole banners, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 5-0. All right.
You have to say nay.
I'm bringing Christmas back.
Lifeguard grant proposal from county. I expect this to be a quick one. How about, no?
So that'd be my recommendation, the 200 and some $1,000 on this grant thing. I mean, it failed by one vote on the county commission, which is changing, but we pay the same county taxes as anybody else pays. I've spoken with the managers of Cocoa Beach and Melbourne Beach, who are both affected by this, and they won't pay. They're refusing it too.
We made an offer originally, and they have not come back. They say they're negotiating, and they're not. They're just saying this is it. So until they come back with something else.
Yep. And I sent Commissioner Steele that too, before the vote last time. Like, we made an offer, we haven't, back in January, and I have not heard a response till I got this letter.
Right.
And last night I was at the county commission meeting, subject to Bright Line Stop in Cocoa. The mayor of Cocoa Beach also put a good dig in about the lifeguards. So it's not gone away.
Yeah.
Same commissioners who were against it are still against it. The same county manager who drafted the agreement was still gave a look like, you know, why?
There are also some side issues here. In addition to the price, such as, you know, who's going to indemnify whom for services and things of that sort. So I just put you onto that. It's something to think about, and that may be something that's part of your response.
Well, that, and I think, there was almost zero chance that we were going to pay 260 whatever $1,000, right? There is zero chance, maybe if there's such thing as a negative chance of us paying full price and expecting a refund for half back, not happening.
Yeah, just for the public record, we pay 50 or 44 or 45 K a year, $1,000 a year.
54 this year.
$54,000 a year for 2 seasonal lifeguards, correct?
Yeah.
And this would be for the full-time lifeguard tower year-round, plus the 2 seasonal lifeguards.
Correct.
It'd be almost,
And the stations.
And the
Yeah.
stations, yeah.
Those-
So it would be a 5X, nay, a 10X increase with a potential promise of a half price, 50% refund.
Right.
And this all still comes down to the fact that, for some reason, the county commissioners, 3 of them,
Oh, and this is only for Nance Park too, by the way.
yeah, the 3 county commissioners believe that charging for parking to maintain the park means that we should have to pay for the lifeguards, in addition to the taxes we already pay for the lifeguards. And you would have had to be there to appreciate it. But it made no sense. Their discussions, it's one of them
Lauren? Sorry.
that had been there.
Mike, how much has the county moved on its offer since the original offer?
since our,
Whatever it was. Yep.
our original offer,
No, the counties.
the county, they haven't moved basically to change it to a
I want
grant
that- I
program.
want that in the record. That's important to know. They've stated this is where we're at, and they're not. So we're not closing the gap. I'm thinking about a negotiation. We're not closing a gap somewhere. We're not able to come to a closer to our position. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that's not good. And I raised concerns when I read about the grant. If it's not funded, right, if it's not approved in the county budget, the grant offer they're making has a lot of contingencies upon it. I was very concerned because we're the ones who are going to pay the price if it isn't fully funded in their budget or we don't get awarded the full amount. There are no guarantees in it, so that was concerning. And Paul, I don't have to belay it, but Paul brought up something very important. I didn't dig in heavily, but I looked at the indemnification clause, and it puts a lot on us. And it's an unlimited ceiling, and again, I would like you to be, or at least if we think about it, Paul should look at it, and if we do go forward, that's got to be dealt with, because it's one thing to get our price and then have to take all the risk of the indemnification, indemnifying the county, which I think is unfair. If they're asking for cost sharing, risk sharing ought to be involved there. And then, Mike, there was also, I was surprised, is there a consequence of naming the county as a certificate holder on our insurance policies? Yes. Because that's additional risk now. So I'm really struggling to see value here. So I think we should continue to have the position we have, if it's not being closed, and that we have these other clauses that really make us assume the risk. I just don't see the upside. While life is important to be saved and life is to be cared for, we have to be able to steward our resources to shepherd it in a reasonable way. And right now, there is a big gap where the county's terms and price are and ours. Am I missing anything?
No.
Okay, thank you.
There's another issue here, and that is previously when the county came to us, they offered us an interlocal agreement, a contract where we would do certain things and they would do certain things. Now this has been changed to a grant agreement where they will give us some money and we will do lots of things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that goes back to the point that Councilman Strand's raising is there's a number of things here that if we were going to go with a contract that we would want to probably specify in, we would want to make sure that we protect the town's right to determine whether or not the beach is open or not, that, what the hours of operation would be, that the lifeguard services would be county lifeguard services, but that they would indemnify us and maybe insure us in the event of some type of loss where somebody was injured and then turned around and sued both the county and the town. But what's happened here is, no, it's a grant agreement. We'll give you Brevard County will give you some money, and you will do lots of things for us as a condition of the grant agreement, and no longer an interlocal agreement.
May I ask one quick question? What I'm hearing you say is there's more risk transferred to us by the choice of the grant agreement. In other words, we stepped back in potentially our position. Thank you.
And there's no guarantee that any subsequent years, it will be 50%. It could be 40%, could be 10%, and then we get left holding a big bag or nothing, and we look like the bad guy when we're not the ones advertising the beaches.
You can almost guarantee that's the intent where it would go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Strictly based upon the individual driver request.
And certain TDC funds are allowed to be used for lifeguards, and that's where they'd be getting their grant portion. The county would be paying nothing. They'd be taking it basically out of TDC money. They're just going to be reallocating things.
Right.
Well, and it's a joke, they're reallocating that money, if I understand correctly, to actually promote tourism to the beaches.
Yeah.
So they're taking away the money for funding the lifeguards to promote more people coming here without proper funding for the lifeguards.
Yeah.
That's disgusting. What is the point of that? Like, you call yourself, a public servant? Come on. And you know who I'm talking to.
You'd have to have been there.
Oh, I didn't, because I would be maybe a little unreasonable, like it was a school board event or something.
Public comment or anything else from council? Public comment. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. Councilman
Unintended.
Miller, turn your microphone on.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Thank you. I know. So gentle. So gentle. I accidentally touch it.
Mike, did you need anything from us on that?
It just authorized me to send a response back to the county manager saying that, we're not accepting the grant thing. We think the county should be funding it, and I'll get with Paul if we want to put anything about the liability issues in there.
Okay.
Just ignore that right now.
So we're good.
So you'll outline, though, our position in it, so they have something, if they choose to move forward, to negotiate towards, which is really acting in good faith, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Negotiation is, hey, we'll pay this. No, well, how about this? How about this? It's not, you pay this.
Yeah.
So, all right.
And don't hold your breath.
Yeah.
All right, moving on, the capital improvement plan. Where are we at?
4 months in the making, so hopefully.
So Councilman Wright has helped me along, and we've expanded. Normally, our capital improvement plan basically was not including parks or anything. It was just including our roadways and stormwater things. So this is really spread out over a lot more information. So getting that all into the information, more information there, he's helped a lot. So we've spread out and added projects and things like that going out to 5 years. And there could be times where something that's scheduled for 2028 might have a failure, stormwater thing, we might have a failure we don't know about. We have to push something in there or things. But this is a guidance so we know how to budget forward and stuff and put money in our reserves for these future projects. The only one is on the enterprise, like the enterprise fund we never included.
Right.
That's just based upon what we have, because I can't put money aside and stuff. Right. It's a no profit area and you have to spend money with everything you get in there.
Stu, any comment?
I have just one question, and it's really a term I'm not familiar with. On street improvements, transition to passer criteria going forward. What does that mean?
So that is something that Councilmember Strand had mentioned, and it's a system that the Satellite Beach uses it, I know there, but they're a little bigger. They have the staff in there, and probably Joe can answer that question a little bit more.
All it is, it's a rating system from 1 through 10. 10 being, I believe, is the worst street that needs to be addressed. 1 being the best street. You don't have to worry about it. And there's different levels, between 1 and 10, whereas I was going to do a 1 through 3. However, It's a good system. I'm not saying it's not a bad system. It's just very detailed. And I just have to get out there and go do it. And I'm trying to find the time to do that with one person down and two here and not during the week. So it's kind of challenging at times.
Is it more objective than the current system?
Yeah, it's more detailed. Yes, sir.
Does it require special equipment?
No, just what I may see to be a 1, someone might see it to be a 2. That's it.
There are some criteria in there, I believe, too, that talks about, because there's some examples that talk about cracking and things like that for the passer.
Readily available, you can just Google it on the internet and download the 30-page document on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it gives visual examples of all the terminologies used and how to do it. So it's just a matter of how far we want to take it in terms of delineation. But it's there, so it gives you objective criteria that you can measure against.
Lauren?
Thank you, first of all, Doug, and Mike, and all those who worked on it. I pulled several other SIP plans from other municipalities to understand what it looked like, and this one is a lot better. It's a lot better than what it was in the past. I think it's got transparency, and it's a far cry than where it started. Thank you. I could understand it, looking at from where we're allocating the money, why. I think that helps, frankly, residents ultimately understand the logic of the choices, and I also like your the short descriptions, because we're getting a better way to evaluate when something's done. So that's appreciated. I have a concern on the H&H study, and I just want to ask you all, it seems to be the kick the can item. And, this is a tool that allows us to evaluate things to move to a more proactive approach. I've been encouraging it for a while. Mike had a grant back in the day that didn't complete. It's a model that's reusable to help us plan better for sustainability. I've struggled to not know why we're not latching on a little bit more to it, because otherwise it leaves us in a reactive mode. Are you all, but it's up to you. I mean, do you see it as something important, or is it something, well, it'll be nice if and when we get it, because now in here it's 25, 26. And this it's frustrated me. The can has been kicked a lot. Either we should adopt a proactive approach or simply say, no, we're not going to do it and continue to wait until certain things fail. That is an approach. It's just a different approach.
So Mike,
Thoughts?
Mike, so it's not included in the capital improvement plan, it's not a capital improvement item, but it would be performed as part of the normal budgeting cycle to coincide with the capital improvement plan, or in support of. So we didn't talk about that part, Mike. Is that included in the budget, either for this year or next year?
It's not included in this year, and for next year, that's something we can consider in there, plus also the grant. What happened is technology has changed. Originally, we were going to use LiDAR, now drones and stuff. Our town engineer actually is supposed to send me some test shots. He did a little area in Melbourne Beach, just testing out everything, and to get a much more accurate thing. So we've talked about that and applying with FDEP for another grant, and we can fund it and see, how much they pay, how much we pay, and I can, as we get our audit and things, we can put money forward for it.
Yeah, I think it's worth it's always better to be proactive, right?
It does help to plan. I mean, I don't disagree with your prioritization of making it happen. So I think that from a budgeting standpoint, I think we need to see what we can do to get it into and done in the near term, if it's this calendar year 24 or fiscal year 25.
Yeah.
Understanding the differences. The sooner the better.
Have to be next year. We don't have the money.
Fair enough, but that's why I provide the latitude, but that would be the request.
My take, first of all, can we budget it? Is there enough room to budget it? And I don't want to see, let's kick taxes up another mill. We just can't do that. So we have a lot of expenses. We've got old facilities that need to be upgraded, and we know that. So question one is budgeting. Budgeting also basically it's behind everything we do. The other question is, I hate to see studies that get put on the shelf and are never used. And we've got one that was done last year on the shelf, never been looked at again.
Which one was that?
Oh, that was the environmental, whatever, sustainability board study. But it's still, it's another example, and it's very common. Every community does it. So it's not us, it's everybody. So, you know, I don't want to engage in a study that we won't use. We're going to use it, it's great.
What's an approximate cost? I mean,
I got to get updated cost.
It was about 70,000.
No, it's not, that was the old numbers. That was pre-COVID and everything else. So I can get an updated quote. These are kind of two different items, the CIP and this. So you can direct me to get some numbers and come back to you like next month and what the numbers would be from them. But the CIP, we've got to get approved too, because that's required for our comprehensive plan, and we have an ordinance we have to approve and get that moving. So they're kind of two different items.
okay.
So
I would like to speak on that. This is exactly the problem that we have. So first of all, and with all due respect to Councilman Glass, the H&H study is a model that can be updated and used frequently. It's not a piece of paper that has to sit on. When you look at the H&H model, I talked to engineers who run this for not only municipalities like ours, but in Washington, D.C. and other places. It helps you make better decisions so you can spend your money better. So I think that, first of all, just saying the budget and we can't do it actually may drive more cost in the long run. Because it is a usable model, it's something that you can put scenarios in, and like any tool, if you leave it in the tool belt and don't intend to use it, certainly we shouldn't spend on it. But let's use reasonable tools to save us money and look at the types of rainfalls and things as things change. That's what it models. In fact, it's a useful model you continue to update, and you can run scenarios against it. Number two, perfect is the enemy of good. We don't have to fight with whether it's LIDAR or other things. These are very wonderful technologies that have a good amount of detail, and we don't have to go buy the Cadillac here. We can buy a reasonable one, and depending on how you run the model with the existing data sets. Some of the LIDAR data sets are available publicly, as you know. So you could look at drones and other things, but I'm not asking for a super high version, because you can choose the version of the model. I've actually talked to a company that provides the tiers of the model. So it's the mentality that I'm fighting for, is using a good tool that truly can save you money in the budget so you can do other things is a valuable thing. And dealing with the potential of flooding, I always take seriously here, whether it's a business or a domicile that is intruded by water that we could have prevented is really disruptive to people. So that's why I urge us to consider it. And it may not be directly linked here, but can you see what I'm going? The thought of being proactive and doing something that helps us plan that directly impacts what choices you make on the SIP would be useful. So that's my guidance, understanding y'all may not see it as a proactive approach, but it is a tool I think that can be very useful if you look into your H&H study and just look at what it is and how other communities use it. I think you'll find it's useful.
On that, actually, I just want, I know this is about the capital improvement plan, but excuse my ignorance. An H&H study, the objective is to find where our weaknesses are for flooding and come up with solutions. Or is it all about stormwater drain? Like, I need to understand the bigger picture better.
So think about a model that is the branches, the tree trunks of all our stuff, and it's gravity driven, and it has certain size pipe and everything. So think of computer models put in. It's the computer model of our stuff, and then what you do is you also have impervious surfaces. That's why I have the LIDAR. So you can actually say, if we had a 100-year flood or this amount of rainfall, and you can dial up and down, as water enters the system and exits, can it move quickly enough through it? Does it back up in areas? Where might it back up now that we don't know? As you do changes, you update and say, hey, we put in a bigger pipe here, so you can rerun it with a few clicks of the button, and you can see whether the water starts to accumulate, and it also takes in soil density, so you know whether it percolates. The whole idea is, does standing water become flooding water? And it models that with our current system. So there's not much updates to the study once you do it until you change out pipes, but the cost of that to put in the model that it's now not a 24-inch but a 36-inch is very low cost. And then you hit the button and say, rerun the scenario that Mike thinks is most representative of rainfall. And you could even make different rainfall levels, and you can see how your system works. Is that?
Oh, yeah,
to
no, that's
your
very helpful.
satisfaction?
That is to my satisfaction, thank you. If we identify a potential issue, like the solutions for that, that seems like such a large scope. Like, would it be like, hey, we have to create a whole new, drain in this area and tear up and then we have to get like state funding? Again, it's my ignorance that I don't understand.
So whether you detect the problem now or later when the actual stuff
right, that's
happens,
fair.
that's why we rely on the town planner, town
Right.
manager, Joe, and others to say, if we feel there's enough risk here and the types of weather conditions would happen here, here's what we might do. And it actually gives you a chance to decide to, again, budget and save up. To Stu's point, you want to save up and say, maybe we want to do a little more here because this is a risk area, but we need to save money for 3 years to get to the point where we might either seek an appropriation or have enough to do it in an updated SIP.
Thank you.
I believe one of the other key elements here, Lauren, you mentioned it, was pervious versus impervious. And if you look at the proliferation of concrete box townhomes that seems to be occurring in Indialantic, there's impervious surfaces. They may hold their own stormwater, maybe they don't. I think they do, but that is a water model problem. It's not sand.
What else do we have on the
Oh,
CIP?
Joe, I'm sorry. I didn't see everything.
What else do we have on the CIP? I mean, are there other questions on the CIP?
Well,
But I don't want
Joe.
So on the H&H study, we all know water goes one way, down. We're too flat to be worrying about that and the software for that, in my opinion. If water holds more than 3 days, you have a stormwater problem. 3 days, that's 72 hours. No water stays here for 72 hours, even after our hurricanes. We don't have a stormwater problem where we need an H&H study. We're only like 2 feet. Some of our drains are 1.5 feet under the ground. I think there's money that can be spent elsewhere. That's my opinion.
Fair enough.
Just to kind of put on top of that, I can see the benefits of it because we're not just talking about what we have today. We're talking about the sea level rising and the rainstorms increasing. So it would help predict that information. So I see the advantage of it. It's not one of those we don't have something right now, but it would show, if we model it out over several years and if we do 10-year storm surge or we do a 100-year storm, where we're at, because those 10-year storms are happening every 2 years now. It's not like it's 10 years anymore.
Right.
Thank you for the discussion. Let me circle back to answer Doug, because Doug's keeping us focused on the SIP. The only other thing that I spent a lot of time looking at, as Mike and Joe knows, was the plan for the streets overall. And we've only planned for a few of them. And Joe, I gave you sort of a map and I color-coded. I think those are the streets that are being done. I do have some concerns about exactly when the start dates and end dates, but I think I'm just not going to push that for right now. I put the ones in there that I don't know, and you can see my screen. There's a range of questions I had on there. I think we can work that out a little bit later. The other thing I'm hoping we can do that's not directly this SIP, but I think will be very helpful, and as we're looking at other potential improvements in the town, is forecasting out a bit when we may have the streets in general, and think about the streets as blocks. When we see what Joe has brought it down to, it's square footage of asphalt. So I'd love to project out further. That gives us a chance to know potential costs down the road, and it also gives us a chance, if we have another big type of project, that we can balance roads and not have to play one off the other. We can say, this is our plan. Do we need to modify it a little? Because because the SIP doesn't address a lot of roads that people may be concerned about. So I'd like to urge us to consider continuing that spreadsheet. It's not hard. It may only be another hour or two with Joe's input. We could have that completed. And the last question that I had on it, and we can go back if there's pushback on that. Joe, are all the roads only the milled 2 inches? Because you can mill further. Did you have any roads that you felt you had to mill more? Because as you know, the milling drives a lot of the cost, plus the asphalt at the rate based on petroleum prices goes up and down. I paid attention, right? Is it 2 inches
So
or?
it depends if it's already an inch above the driveways. If it is, then go down 3 inches to bring it back to 2.
Okay, so 3
it
is sort of the
depends on
maximum
the
in
height
our
of it
model.
right now, correct.
Okay, so I'm still comfortable because when I looked at the numbers, it's still reasonable. If you told me it's 4 inches or 6 on some, then it might drive costs differently, but I'm okay with it.
So the expectation to the timeline is that because it needs to be submitted to the state by when? Or needs to be, what's the next step? Just walk
Well,
the timeline.
we're required to submit a 5-year CIP.
But it has to, but the timeline, the sequence of events, because you and I have talked about, but
yeah.
it may not be.
It should be done by June, but, you know, if we have to do an ordinance and stuff, it'd be July.
But I mean, when you say done, it needs to be, so there's a sequence of steps because it's an ordinance, it needs a number of readings, and it needs to go to the planner to get written, and so.
And what I'm sending is the 5-year, not all the other stuff in there, the supporting documents and thing. He just needs the charts of the 5-year capital improvement.
So are we looking for a review tonight with feedback and come back in June? Or are we looking for approval tonight to meet the timeline? Are we already behind schedule with the timeline?
We're behind schedule.
Can I ask one quick question that I'm thoroughly confused by? We have as we get through this, and we get down, this is on the roads, by the way, paving estimates, there's a $609,000 paving estimate. What is that? I mean, I see the numbers, but I don't quite, are you saying do them all at once at $609,000?
No, I think it's a total when you talk about it all.
Yeah.
What page are you on?
But it says total project cost. And I don't quite understand.
What page are you on?
I'm not sure. It looks like.
Page 119 on
It
the
looks
package.
119, yeah.
119, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's just the total of everything.
That's the total for everything, yeah. Wait, hold on, paving. So on that page, that's like,
That's the cost if we were to repave everything that needs it now in 1 year. Is that correct?
That table, I believe, is it probably behind a revision. And what it represents, is it's supposed to represent, is for each line item, it's supposed to correspond with a street or a block that's being paved. And then in here's the dimensions, the length, the width, total square feet, yards, tonnage, material cost, milling cost. And that pops out a total cost. What's probably missing is because we didn't update this most recently with all the streets that are in the list that are up further in the table. Personally, I think this is backup material because the cost is already captured in the other. This is just the basis. So this is the pure material cost estimate. Doesn't include labor.
But it's across multiple years, as it is. Well, 'cause- yeah.
This represents potentially, I haven't studied it in a while. Oops, touchscreen. Whoa. Now I can't read it.
This one's easier to read.
I haven't looked at this one in a while. So it has certain blocks. So it's not the entire street. So the way this was originally constructed, and I didn't pay close attention to this one recently, is each street that's in the plan. If you go further up in the plan, there's a line item for what year and how much money. This is, my interpretation is that this is supposed to correspond to that activity and it provides you the dimensions, but then allows you to do the math based on the going rate.
The area square feet
Yeah,
is
to project the
required,
material
and the milling
cost.
depth.
And that's over 5 years, though. That's
Well, it is, but
Roughly.
it's not, there's no correlation back on an annual basis.
Right,
This
right.
is just total, and this has not been updated, to be fair, with
Right.
the complete list of the current revision. I don't know that this is necessary, Mike. We didn't cover this, we covered everything else, I think. I don't know that this is necessary to be included, because this cost is already included in the street rework.
and so if the 5-year for
It's
the cost
interesting.
is $1,679,300 for street improvements over the next 5 years.
Okay, that's the number I was really looking for. I just couldn't,
Yeah.
I couldn't get from the 609 to, that seems too low.
Yeah, I agree. It's
Well, it doesn't-
sheets and stuff, because changing all the different numbers and things.
And, factoring like asphalt costs, okay, that's today's cost. or-
Yes, at the very beginning, at the very first sheet after the cover,
Okay.
there's a summary table that kind of delineates
do we?
By improvement group.
by improvement group on an annual basis and a
That's
total.
fine.
Yeah.
So Mike needs this approved or not approved, but would prefer approval, I imagine. Is there a motion to approve?
Well, I don't know if there's any other questions yet still to go.
I'll make the motion to approve the capital improvement plan to be sent to the town planner, so he can bring the updated comprehensive plan back to the town council for approval.
All right.
So this is to approve it to go to LaRue. That's basically what this says.
Right. Any other comments?
No one second it?
Brett, second.
Right, second.
Okay.
Do we have other questions?
Public comment. Dick.
Dick Dunn, 330 Tampa Avenue. And looking at the street improvement, it shows that the South Riverside Drive mill and repave for in FY '24. Right now, between Fifth Avenue and Sixth Avenue is very ugly and dangerous holes that I would suggest need to be repaired temporarily until you get around to really milling it, because it's dangerous for people on bicycles, people crossing the road with strollers, cars that use that. I use it probably 5 times a day. You have to slow down there. So my suggestion is to discuss and look at temporarily patching that until you get to the point where you're going to do the full job.
Well, the full job starts in how many weeks?
So next week, or the week after next, we're going to close down Orlando Boulevard at Riverside again to fix the damaged roadway. And then we've just approved tonight, the council did, the paving of the South Riverside. So we're hoping at the end of June, beginning of July, to have that done.
Okay.
To Mr. Dunn's point, as I drive through there too, vehicles actually move over into the lane to avoid putting both tires into that rut where they try to stride it. I just don't know about I understand what he's saying, is I think he's concerned about liability. Is it something that could be done reasonably with sort of you put the asphalt in, Joe? Because it's not just those potholes, it's those 2 large gouge areas almost.
Yeah, we met with Chris from WWD, Goodson Paving, and I believe we do have a quote of $12,000 just to mill and do that one section. It's like 250 feet. So I'm just waiting on the FDOT permitting to be done, because they're going to be coming off an FDOT road onto Riverside.
So would that be a temporary fix?
That's just a temporary fix, so
Okay.
next month we can tear it all up again.
Or do we wait the other month? Depending on the permitting and things, we did get a quote on that.
Right.
And maybe, how about if we just mill it?
Thank you.
Instead of
Thanks,
just
Dick.
paving, milling, pave, just mill it. That's probably another way we can, I'll reach out to Chris tomorrow morning.
I mean, we've waited this long, why spend 12 grand for 8 weeks?
And I think some of the damage was done by FDOT when they were working on Fifth Avenue with their equipment coming in there as they came in, because that wasn't there before, and it was there after their work was done.
Right.
They're having trucks broke it up now.
Still the mill on Fifth Ave still there. That mill, so did you just say that? I'm sorry. I was just texting Chris.
Brett, do you have anything to add? Lauren? Oh yeah, we were in public comment. Any other public comment? All right. So we'll hold a vote. All those in favor of approving the 5-year capital improvement plan to be sent to the town planner, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, carries 5-0. Moving on, new business. Town of Indialantic website, that's my item. Public Works Town Manager notification form and a submission form. I wanted to get feedback, and because we've talked about it, we've mentioned it. I think just needs to get done, where we have some type of form on our website that goes to the town manager and Public Works for residents can say, hey, the street light at XYZ is out, or hey, there's, I don't know, water leak, whatever, you know, anything like that. We went out of order.
Keep going. You're good.
So that is my idea on A. B is a submission form. I have very limited website experience, but I do know that you can just put a button that goes to an email and it gets sent to whatever that email address is. And my thought is we can have a waste management button on a town website so people don't have to ask, hey, where do I go? We can just say go to the website, click the button, and that will send the yard waste debris pickup email to waste management. Those are my thoughts. Stu.
The second one, I think Satellite's doing it, but I understand it's kind of it's more complicated than I would have expected.
So, I can give you a quick update. I actually been communicating with Dina the last week about this, and I have, as of this morning, she sent me a link they created that brings you to the Waste Management Indialantic site, and from there it gives you phone numbers, email addresses, and even has a chat box so you can do stuff.
That's fine with me.
So, on the web.
It's better than APIs or basically a process, because then if they change something on their end, you're updating your APIs.
I hate APIs. Don't know what an
Yeah,
API
it's the link to the, if Dina's helping us, land us on the right spot.
Yeah, and I admit that, like, on some of these emails, I get a lot of emails that come in, besides bot emails. I probably get 20 emails off our website a day. But I get people emailing me with things in, and they don't, up top, you gotta put your own email address in, and like contact information. So they don't put anything there. Luckily, a few of the people put it, like, their name and an email or a phone number.
Right.
So.
But I got to figure there's some form, like in my business, we call it a squawk sheet, you know, something like that. I don't know what you guys thought, if we wanted to look into it. Doug?
Outsource it to Waste Management.
Well, aside from that,
Oh, you mean for the submittal? to
Public
town
Works,
manager?
yeah,
Oh,
right.
okay.
Yeah, no, on the waste management, yeah, no, I think.
Okay, fair. Sorry, we just switched gears. My mind.
So I can work on something, but when Molly gets back and stuff, because she's the one that, between me and her and things, like, reach out to the Civics Plus to see if there's anything we can create in that manner.
I would advocate for a standardized form with buttons you can click so that it's clear and obvious, because you will get, as you already know, you get emails that could potentially be non-descriptive or undeterminate, and it'll help you quickly triage them. But still have a comment box, that's fine, obviously, or some kind of feedback loop, but just, Public Works, whatever.
Yeah.
Not too complicated, but something that's useful, meaningful, but easy to operate.
I can create it for all the departments, the fire department, police department, everything else, building.
Parks and Rec. Or Parks and Rec Department.
Lauren?
Yeah, I'm quite glad you brought this up, because I've barked up this tree before, and it's interesting. What do you want to accomplish with this? Is it ease of entry by other folks? Is it more structured data to Mike so he has what he needs? Or are you looking a little more for a customer service type of model where tickets can go in and people can follow them, understand what they're going, so you have a level of transparency? Because the form itself sending in, much like an email, once it's done, it's gone, and people can't really follow or engage. Then other types of communications have to happen. When you have some, there's a product that we've talked about called See, Click, Fix, which is an excellent product by Civic Plus that plays well with us, that is used by cities very effectively to give a good customer service touch for transparency. It's like if you used a ticketing system on things. I like the model because it's very customer focused, resident focused. It also allows, without, the minute you start doing a form and say, let's do this, this, and this, you're better off of buying See, Click, Fix. And Doug will sort of tell you the costs when you're custom creating your own. In a short-term fix, Mark, if you're just looking to get entry and more structured, then forms work. It's very straightforward. The site is built in Drupal. It's the type of thing that is of very low cost, probably to do. But you'll need someone there to do it because you'll come up with a form. But if you want to have a higher touch, then you'll have a little bit higher cost. But now you have a system that allows Mike and all departments to streamline, handle, and give a higher touch of service.
No, I
What
think
were you
that,
seeking to
I think
do?
I was looking, I didn't know what I was looking for, but that I think is probably, that's the best option, right? Most comprehensive.
You always come down to this. What type of service do we want to deliver at what touch? It's a new system for staff to use. It is a little more costly and complicated, but once you get over and you exercise a muscle and you get good at it, you can be very streamlined and people can see what they're doing potentially. Others can see that, if they're reporting multiple things, you merge tickets. It's just like good customer service. But like anything, it comes with a philosophy behind it. How high a touch do you want to give, given the type of town we are, right? And that's sort of it. And I brought it up because I think we usually go to a little bit of simpler because that's how we see it. But it does, is it worth exploring? That's all I ask to you all, right? If you can look at your form solution, does it solve your problem you want? Compared to see, click, fix, and I would look at the incremental difference of the cost and the interest of staff to work like that. That's the other thing. They may say, look, we just don't want to give this level of service because what we have is close enough, just add 2 forms.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth investigating, right? Oh, shit. As always. All right. Joe, Mike, did you have any input on that?
I mean, I could reach out to the see, click, fix thing and see what the cost would be with Civics Plus or people and see if it's an add-on or it's this whole different, because they're selling it as a software package. I don't know if it's an add-on to the
Right.
website or a separate software package.
Right.
It is. It's a cloud tool. I encourage you not just to ask them what's the price, but maybe walk through a demo with their features and look at it from both a town manager viewpoint and your others. And you may say, hey, there's some workflow thing here and some dashboarding for you and some good customer service. You may be surprised at some of the features as you look at the price, may be something that you feel might actually save on salary time. Now, all of a sudden, we're talking good money because salaries always cost way more than a reasonable tool. But you're right, it is a standalone feature, but because it's the same company, it can be tightly integrated with the web, because they own our Municode, they own our website, and this would be another piece that they sort of put together. Is that helpful?
Yeah, definitely.
I think the initial part here is a lot of folks, like my wife, just don't like to talk on the phone. Point blank, she will not dial a phone number. And I don't think she's...
Different way to get customer service.
Exactly.
Yep.
Fair point.
And some just go to social media and say, there's a water leak. Well, not real helpful.
You need anything from us on that?
No, I'll research
Yeah.
and bring back to you all.
Cool.
I'm on their website right now looking.
Moving on. I'm going to cut this short on the zip line with just a few questions because Greg Harrigan was supposed to be here and he's not. I know. The expert. The high-tension cable investigation expert's not here. Joe, where are we at?
Still waiting on parts.
Okay, so we're still waiting on
Yep.
parts.
And I just got a letter from them saying about their coastal package, that basically they're telling me that I should sand it and then primer it with a Rust-Oleum type of paint, basically, to make it last. But we have stainless steel chain that we use in our parks all day long. And I'm just asking them, no, just to change it to stainless steel. So they're willing to give us new parts, but not stainless steel.
Are you good with a professional engineer looking at the overall design and adjusting it?
I would be okay if I had a professional engineer tell me that I have to use 5/16 stainless steel cable, or do I need to use 1/4 inch or 3/8? If I can get that verification, I'm good with that.
The feedback I'm getting is completely redesigned attachment point.
Basically, yeah, because it's just gonna rust out. We're gonna be fighting this all day long. They're giving me new stuff, but it's gonna rust out in 6 months.
Right. And you would be, I know we talked about this outside, you would be good with a professional engineer coming up with some type of inspection plan that you would not have to do because you're not a cable inspection expert?
Yes, however, my overall opinion is I would not put it up.
Say that again?
I would not put it up. I would not re-put it up. I would not, because of the fact it's not, we don't have someone standing on site watching to make sure they use it correctly. Because I seen people when I'm driving, two girls in the seat, and the father's just taking and slinging them. And of course, I'm sure they're laughing and having a grand old time. But if we're not going to monitor the people using it, it's a moot point. We're going to be set up for another lawsuit. So.
I may have missed it. Do you have an ETA on the parts?
I will get with him first thing.
I was just wondering if you had it.
No, that was the last email I got today around 2:30.
Okay.
So I will reach out to him and find out where the rest of the parts are.
You guys have any thoughts?
It's popular, it's neat, but if it's a liability, it's just not worth it. I think Joe's right on.
My only question would be not to Joe or anybody here that can answer it, but would be, is there a method that you could essentially over-engineer it such a bridge, like a bridge where it's 10x safety factor that you could
I know
basically
somebody
put
that will, yes.
Put a 50-gallon bucket on it loaded with cement and push it as hard as you can and it won't break.
Right. Well, that's exactly Mr. Harrigan's point.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. Yeah, I talked to him.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We have similar backgrounds, not
Right.
necessarily that type of,
Right.
lineage, but similar.
Right.
But yeah, that would be, if we can go down that route, to your points too, I share your sentiment with regards to liability, but anyhow, enough.
Melbourne?
I would encourage exploring what it would be for a correct setup first before I'd get rid of them. There are zip lines that are managed well in playgrounds in many points, to Mr. Harrigan's viewpoint, as long as they're designed well and they function well. I realize we're in an assault environment. I like the idea of transferring risk from the town to someone else with an engineer who inspects things, right? That's why you have them, both for safety and sign-off, because if someone says you were negligent, the answer is, well, no. We had a authorized person do this annually. To Joe's point, people will make poor choices. They'll make poor choices. Those devices are a little more, prone to danger. So it's not lost on me what Stu says and Joe has said. I would investigate a little bit more on cost and design with someone who knows what they do before I'd say no to get an idea, because there'll also be a cost to take them out and also to put in whatever we're going to do there. I'm amenable to something, though, that ultimately fixes cost with benefit to folks, that truly doesn't put also a burden on our police department, because they're the ones probably when they're going by that they now have to look or add that to part of the patrol. So I'm open either way, but I would look first for a reasonable engineer type of fix. And I believe the current company is not stepping up to what we need for the level we need. And I don't want to put Joe or the town in the position of having to, he's nervous about it. And I pay attention to that when he's saying do the right thing. And also I want to applaud you, Joe, for standing up also and saying that if they should be taken out, I appreciate, and I'm listening, I'm hearing, and it's not taken lightly. You're the head of Public Works, you know these things, you have much greater understanding. So bottom line is, if it really gets some more pushback and higher cost, I'd be amenable to what Joe said.
Brett?
Yeah, I'd like to give it one more try. Like Doug said, maybe try to over-engineer it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to put all this effort in for nothing, but I do appreciate and understand where Joe's coming from, so I feel like we can find some sort of reasonable solution, give it one more effort.
Yeah.
To do so, but other than that, it might be lost cause.
My emotional attachment to it is Mary Goodwin said this would have been Mikey's favorite part of it.
Well, only half.
Right. So obviously that doesn't
Put it in her
outweigh
yard.
liability and injury risk, but I think it is worth exploring an over-engineered thing.
You all have received notice the lawsuit's going to be filed.
Correct.
I would suggest before you go too much further that you would coordinate with the the Florida Municipal Insurance Trust and with the attorneys that will be involved in defending the case. And here's some thoughts. Any sort of engineering analysis that's done, any opinion of an engineer as to what you should be doing or shouldn't be doing is liable to become an exhibit against the town at a trial. What is the insurance company's position as far as what needs to be done so that it is not only insurable and the town is covered, but that you can have it? The insurance company might come back and say, no, no coverage. I don't know that they would say that, but, I think you would want some explanation of why and what might make it insurable. But the key here is any sort of analysis that you're going to be doing in the future is likely to become an exhibit against the town at a trial. So I would just recommend to you that coordinate with the FMIT and with their attorneys, because they'll be asked to defend you in any sort of litigation before you go too much further down the road.
My question related to that would be, does it make a difference looking ahead at a solution versus looking at what caused it? Are they two independent things or subjects?
I don't think they necessarily are.
Okay.
I don't think they necessarily, and the reason I say that is that, what we should be doing in the future could be very, very likely the answer of, oh, well, why didn't you do this before?
Right. Mike?
Well, I don't know that you need to put it on hold, but I like I say, coordinate with your insurance company and with the attorneys that are going to be asked to defend you before you go too much further. And they actually may be able to give you some suggestions as far as, what you need to do as far as studies or no studies or whatever. I'm not in a position to do it because, I'm not the one that's defending the town in this thing.
Right. Now, Mike, you talked to the
So-
insurance lawyers.
Yeah, I reached out to FMIT,
Yeah.
and they basically ran it through legal. I sent them the email I had from Mr.
good.
Harrigan.
Good.
And emailed me back, they don't want a citizen doing it, but a professional outside agency would be okay with them.
Okay.
So I have that in email format too. And another thing, I did reach out because Field of Dreams has basically almost the same thing. I know it's a different company. And they've had it, I think it's 9 years it's been out there now, going on close to 10 years. And I spoke to the city manager and assistant city manager, and they've never had any problems with it out there. So I don't know, anomaly of different manufacturer or.
Because it wasn't the salt that caused that.
No, it was the heating.
Heating?
The bolts were discolored, they were overheated.
All helpful information.
And I think because they took the playground equipment people took and put it into their insurance too. So I think they might have an issue they were aware of or something, because they had a retrofit for it, which makes me think if they have a retrofit.
Right, with different hardware and stuff.
Yeah.
Is general consensus, we wait to install the new equipment whenever it gets here?
Put it on pause until we.
Okay.
All right. FDOT maintenance agreement, 2 more items. Joe? FDOT maintenance agreement,
For the MOA? Yeah, right now I pay $9,504 to have the median cut, center, north and south side, from the end of the bridge to the first relief bridge. And the state gives us $8,400 a year to maintain top of the bridge, Fifth Ave, through Fifth Ave to A1A, south to Miami, north to Grosse Pointe. we're not being paid enough to maintain the Fifth Ave, or the MOA for FDOT. It actually went down $92 from last year. My proposal is to have the state take back the number 92 Causeway mowing. We're still going to maintain the Fifth Ave median because that's our project, but they'd also take care of A1A from Fifth Ave south to Miami, Fifth Ave north to Grosse Pointe.
So we would, at that point, not spend any money on any of that, but we'd be at their will or whatever.
You would be at their will, and there's a lot of influential people that live here. And if you make calls to FDOT, I guarantee their supervisor would say, I don't care what day of the month you are in, first of the month you mow this.
Mike?
I kind of differ from, Joe is frustrated with it, I know, but I kind of differ because we do lose that control. And so they might mow once a month, once every couple months. So that gives me concerns of what'll happen, you know. Yeah, as he says, influential, peaceful, but, you know, it all depends on who's there and what they're doing, as we know with our experience with FDOT right now. So I have concerns on that because you're losing that entry point. We're making the median nice and beautiful, and eventually, and then you're coming in, you know, kind of like Melbourne. They maintain theirs, but they don't maintain it nice. I had to call them a couple years, like 2 years ago, because there's a mattress out there for 30 days, not cleaned up. I called the city manager over there. I'm like, hey, and she drove by it every day because she lived in North Indialantic in the Melbourne area. So that's my concern, is that we lose some control of how you come into Indialantic. I'm not necessarily worried about the, you know, A1A as much.
Right. Is there any negotiation on this, or is it just take it or leave it?
Yes, we could try, but the chances are, there's like, that's it.
How long is the mowing? Is it multiple years?
This one, it's multiple years. Is it?
I think this is just 1 year. This year.
Are you thinking see what happens in a year?
2025.
1 year.
Okay. Yeah, it's 1 year.
1 year.
You got anything?
No, I'll go with whatever Mike and Joe can agree to.
That sounds like
I think this is
they're
an
not.
administrative issue.
Yeah.
Well, in my opinion, I like to, even if we have to pay a little money out of pocket, I like to control our front yard. If we can use our influential people to maybe get an improved MOA for next year, I think that would be worthwhile. I'm not as worried about A1A, obviously, but we can't pick and choose which part of the MOA we want to accept or not.
Right. Lauren?
Yeah, Joe, I wanted to ask you, what was driving this recommendation? Was it a certain amount of money, or what are the benefits you see if we were to accept this, please? I'm sorry, I couldn't quite get it. You gave a bunch of numbers, but I couldn't come up with
the reason being is because our mowing contractor raised his rate from $350 a cut to almost $750 a cut.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay.
Well, excuse me, I apologize, not 7, it was 500 a cut, sorry. It came up to, when we did it by, divided by 12 months, $791 a month he cuts that area, which comes out to $9,500, whereas previously it was $350 a cut at 19 cuts, whatever that is. Not too good on my math.
$7 grand-ish.
How much?
$7 grand-ish.
Yeah, so we weren't making money, but we weren't losing money from when the state gave us $8,400, because we still had to maintain Fifth Ave and also A1A from Miami, Fifth to Grosse Pointe. And now that he raises rates, and to be honest, he wanted to raise it to $750 a cut, and I said no. Because we only have a 1-year contract with him, and not saying we can't go to another mowing contract bid. However, I wouldn't touch that for at least $500 a month, $500 a cut, to be honest. To mow that area.
So what's the total dollar amount now annually of the contract that you feel we're losing out on? Is it, I
We'll
can't
be
quite
losing out
tell.
about $1,500 roughly.
So so this is
I mean, it's not a substantial
$1,139.
amount, but
So, but a total of $1,500?
yes.
Okay, that helps.
Plus now that's not counting us maintaining Fifth Ave and whatever we have to do on A1A.
Okay, so, go ahead.
Who does the labor, the actual labor on Fifth Ave and A1A? Is it Public Works? or-
It's Public Works.
So for $1,500, I would prefer we have control over it, unless Mike and Joe really feel differently, because I would be concerned if it was bigger numbers than that. And thank you, Joe, now you broke it down for me, but if you told me it's 10 grand, I'd probably be thinking differently, but I do understand the idea of aesthetics, and aesthetics have been something we've been focused on for a bit, from the polls to a whole range, and the Fifth Ave. So I understand the concern if it became an eyesore or something else, and I do recognize, sadly, the point, FDOT has been very difficult to work with. The amount of work they put this town through for the staff and staff costs, I'm actually surprised. So I'm not trying to vent hard at it, but I do understand getting a change may not be as simple as having, I wish we had influential who had the bat phone just to make the call to get it done. But if we didn't, it would be problematic. Thank you.
And just so I can correct it, actual in Joe's memo here is $1,139 deficit.
I think it's important to maintain control, especially with FDOT. From my personal experience, behind my office building, they have some right-of-way property. They never maintain it on their own. And so then we have to call, and it'll take anywhere from a week to a month for them to actually get to it. The city of Melbourne actually does a better job of maintaining FDOT's property, so I think control is important here.
So you guys need an approval from us?
Yeah, for the MOA.
Okay.
We're going to sign MOA, we just need approval.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion that we approve the MOA as presented.
I'll second.
Public discussion or comment? All right. All those in favor of approving the FDOT MOA, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, 5-0. Last item, repaving of South Riverside Drive.
Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Before we move on, just real quick, have we made any progress getting rid of some of the signs on Fifth Avenue? The ones that are 6 feet in front of the sign next to it?
I sent an email, but I haven't heard back from them. So, and some of the signs will come down after construction.
Yeah, but a lot of them won't. They're just
Yeah.
really poorly planned.
Yeah. But they seem, a lot of them seem fairly pertinent. You know what I
You
mean?
can read them all and still drive down the road.
Right, right.
Nonstop signage.
It is nonstop.
Yeah.
Maybe the banners will cover them up.
Maybe we can put lights on those. FDOT
there are
doesn't own
lights on
that.
some of those, that's
Or
the problem.
FPL.
It's even like the sign as you turn on to Fifth Avenue from A1A going west. Big sign, oversized sign. It's now bent.
Yeah.
I don't know if something hit it or just the wind did it. But its life, its lifespan is probably going to be measured in months, not years.
Looks like a semi-truck getting.
Yeah.
What
Somebody
was
might
it?
turn a bigger truck,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
trailer or something.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that was my guess, but
Somebody,
bad design.
what do you need approval on this repaving?
So yeah, the repaving is with Goodson Paving. The amount came in is for milling and paving is $227,899.90, which we'd estimated $250,000, but we had a bunch of other expenses that'll cover that extra money. So it came a little bit under what we budgeted for. This is based upon the county contract, and so it's just a base price.
Comment, or is there a motion?
I will motion to approve the bid to repave South Riverside Drive.
I second.
Let's get her done.
Stu?
I have one comment. It's the same Tom Goodson, that's Commissioner Tom Goodson.
Yeah.
Oh, county?
Yeah. So just so it's known up front, it's the same commissioner. It's, he's been in this business many, many years. He's always done a great job. And he happens to be the one of the two that approved using TDC monies for
Yeah.
lifeguards.
Second my motion.
Yeah.
What's that?
Doug, you got anything? Lauren?
Needs to be done.
I would briefly say that a lot of bikers use that and liked using it because it's such a scenic, beautiful area, and they've avoided it. And I used to ride the outdoor bike, and it's very difficult with a lot of the small divots and the other things you're constantly pointing, and it's difficult. So I'm really glad, because I think not only bikers, but others who may ride the e-bikes and joggers and the remainder. So I'm very glad to see it done, because it's a very scenic, wonderful place that is a little bit less trafficked. I mean, it's still trafficked, but it's safer compared to A1A, which has no shoulder on. So great. I'm so glad it's going to be done, and I hope that the bikers and the other vehicles enjoy it.
Brett?
I have one comment.
Yeah.
Just so you're aware, this project's been planned for several years, and the county failed to grout their lines. Every year they promise the next year, and next year, and next year. It's just, that's why it got in such bad shape. We've been trying to do this for years, but we basically told the county, we can't wait any longer. So they're gonna have some liability because they haven't grouted lines, we have some failures.
And are we working with Melbourne Beach too?
We're ahead of schedule, Melbourne Beach kind of kicked around some other things, so they haven't even put their curbing work, so we're gonna be done before Melbourne Beach.
Okay, public comment? Nobody wants to? No, sorry. We already moved on. Afterwards, you can talk to us. All those in favor of approving the repaving project, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All right, administrator report. Paul, you got anything?
Yes, just very quick.
Your vision.
Just very quickly, as you all know, with regard to the Form 6 litigation, argument has been made to the Federal District Court in Fort Lauderdale for the issuance of an injunction which would enable all of you, if it's issued, to not file Form 6. The Form 6 deadline is, as we all know, is coming up. The court is aware of the deadline date. Now, does that mean they'll issue an order prior to that date? Hopefully, but there's no courts do what they do. So, but just to let you know, they are aware of it, and presumably what the outcome of that, if that injunction is issued, is that I suspect you'll probably end up having to file Form 1.
That's the original one, right? The one we've always filled out.
That's the one that you used to fill out, and that form has been changed a little bit. So.
Paul, can I ask a question? Yesterday, I was at the NEP meeting, and Dwayne DeFreeze mentioned that they have to fill out Form 1 effective this year, but it also had a 4-hour ethics class attachment to it. Is it the same one we're used to, or is it a different, or do we know?
What, I have no idea.
I didn't either. I mean,
how that applies to them. And that
but does that apply to anybody here?
That doesn't sound right. Well, the ethics class is. I mean, you all have to.
No, we have to, but it's, our staff, they're a special district.
Yeah.
Does that mean that our town staff would have to complete the 4-hour
I don't think
ethics?
so.
Okay.
Mike?
Just real quick on a median update, the ever-leading story never stops. So last week, I resubmitted stuff to FDOT on Monday and waiting on it because now I have a timeline. We have to have everything not out the bid, we have to have it be awarded by the end of January, or June, sorry, by the 28th of June, because we don't, if we go past there, we have the standards change. Now we have to go back and reapply everything because of the new standards with FDOT. And I emailed the FDOT rep today going, hey, what's the status of this? And he said he would have an answer by Thursday to me. So I will be following up Thursday morning, wanting to know where my answer is.
Please press that.
It's, Susan Hall's never seen anything like this. It's been frustrating for me. Even our town engineer, they want things that he like the format. He typed something in. He's actually frustrated, and we've had some offline conversations, and he's just flabbergasted.
We have had an offer, though, from Representative Fine to go forward with it.
So.
Which is.
Go forward with what?
He'll take it forward.
Yeah.
And you don't want him taking it forward.
I see.
So,
I see.
Or they don't want him taking it forward.
All right. I have very little to report. I will probably miss June. We will be arriving from South Africa that morning, so I'll probably be in bed about now. And then I sent the, what do you call it? The boardwalk initial plan, 10 words or less. What do you guys think? I mean, there wasn't a whole lot to it, but looked good.
That was great.
Yeah.
I think it's a
I've
great
not seen
vision.
it yet.
Yeah.
It's been busy the last 3 weeks, so apologies, I'm sure it looks good.
I'm pleased how they're kicking it off. Very professional, and they're looking at the use cases,
Yep.
and they gave options.
That was 15 words, but go ahead.
All in the done category, I apologize, but I will look at it.
Okay.
I did share it with Dwayne DeFreeze yesterday. 'Cause
Yeah.
He's a good visionary.
Yeah.
And he didn't like the first one at all,
What, oh, from,
of the three exhibits,
oh, no.
but he sure liked the third one.
Yeah.
That was 2 and 3 we like better, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's the same thing that Mike mentioned or you mentioned.
Mark, you're looking for other input that can go to the town manager that can be assimilated without having direct input, right? If you're looking, I mean, Mike, is there input to be said, hey, or just wait?
I think we'll just wait. I don't think there's enough to do anything. I just wanted to see what you guys thought about
Are
it.
they, based on what you provided, are they going to give us new updates? Are we expecting more material from them?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. I
Do
think
we know when that will be?
this week, or upcoming week,
And then,
I think we're gonna have some type of meeting with them.
okay, and then after that, we would expect to see some,
I would think so.
we would see something broadly speaking that we could then,
I think so, yeah.
I'm sorry I can't share this because I don't have the right connector,
that's okay.
but that was the one,
We'll look at it later.
okay.
Anything for you, Stu? Anything to report?
Yeah, I've got two items. Marine Resources Council is attempting to do another American Assembly. Last one they did was 10 years ago. I participated in that one. It deals with the Indian River Lagoon and how to clean it up. It's in July. And they've asked everybody, if we have anybody interested on the council or, committees, to sign up. Last one was probably 500 participants. This one's 26 right now. So.
That's
don't
not
know if
2,600, that's 26.
I don't know if it hasn't been promoted well yet, or if it just isn't in favor right now. If we decide to, gotta be careful of sunshine law. Because the way those assemblies work, you will be taking votes and you will be bringing stuff back to your municipality for votes. So, just a word of warning on that. The other one Victoria sent out today came from the Space Coast Transportation Planning Organization. There's a May 25th workshop session for Beachside. It's a fairly simple thing, and without going into a lot of detail, it's a couple presentations and an interactive voting kind of thing. It's up in Satellite Beach. I think it's at 5 o'clock on the 22nd. So.
Doug?
That's it.
We'll see you Monday night for the Space Coast League of Cities. We're hosting.
Oh, right. Right.
Mike's cooking.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So you have an RSVP, get with Victoria and RSVP, and you got them all? Then we're good. Yep.
Lauren?
Happy birthday, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, thank you.
For you. Nice way to
51
spend
or
it.
52 this year?
I'm awfully gray for 29.
I regrettably will not be. I'm so bummed at at our Space Coast League of Cities event this week. 10-year wedding anniversary, so I'll be in Ireland, leaving tomorrow.
Whoa. Nice.
But I want to say to Joe and your team, thank you very much. The Tampa crosswalk for the beach, awesome. I saw the sunset one, it was great, or sunrise, excuse me. But I live by Tampa, so hang out there. I kind of really did some serious inspecting, and I appreciate the attention to detail. Every single square edge was rounded off really nicely, which I think is important because a lot of people just hang out there and you could slip, splinter, crack your head open. So it looks great. Appreciate it.
And the visibility tape, that was quick turnaround, the high vis tape. Good job. Meeting adjourned. Thanks for coming.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Enjoy your trip.
Yes, yes.
Is this a repeat